For brave heroes conquer every obstacle to reach the final steps of their legendary quest. Kuga smiles, pointing out that they still have one final boss left to defeat before celebrating. But the atmosphere shifts instantly as his allies stop walking and thank him for his service. Standing at the edge of the abyss, the leader coldly tells Kuga that he is fired. Kuga stares back in utter disbelief, unable to process the sudden betrayal. Behind the leader, one of the female party members quietly questions if they should really go through with this. Trying to stay calm, Kuga asks his lifelong companions for the exact reason behind his sudden banishment. His childhood friends look away in shame, unable to meet his eyes as their shared past flashes before them. The leader steps forward, preparing to deliver the harsh reality of their decision. He bluntly tells Kuga that a jack of all trades has no place in a party of masters. Sarah demands to know if Kuga finally understands his complete lack of value to their group. Sarah coldly states that abandoning Kuga is the only logical choice for the party's future. Sarah orders Kuga to step into the dangerous hidden chamber completely alone, leaving him utterly stunned by the sudden demand. Sarah mockingly calls this dangerous solo mission a final parting gift for his years of service. The ruthless leader stares down at his former friend without a single shred of remorse. Realizing there is no way out, Kuga quietly accepts that his journey as an adventurer has reached its bitter end. Mikari speaks up in protest, questioning if sending Kuga to his death is going way too far. Sarah shuts her down immediately, declaring that Kuga must be removed even if they have to use physical force. Kuga looks back at Mikari and softly thanks her for trying to defend him one last time. Turning his back on his companions, Kuga utters a final chilling word to Sarah before stepping into the dark unknown. Kuga asks his departing allies if this is their farewell gift just as the massive stone door slams shut. Trapped alone in the dark, Kuga defiantly accepts the challenge with a cold smile. Deep inside the chamber, a massive, ancient eye watches Kuga approach a mysterious demon girl. The demon girl looks at her unexpected human visitor with pure confusion. She smiles mockingly, asking Kuga if he seriously intends to fight her completely alone. 50 years ago, mysterious dungeons suddenly appeared on Earth. Along with these dungeons came magic, monsters, and entirely new professions for humanity to master. Among these legendary powers was Relive, a rare spell that automatically resurrects its user. However, this life-saving magic can only be used once. With the fear of permanent death gone, dungeon exploration quickly evolved. Broadcasting these dangerous adventures online became a massive global phenomenon. But one legendary location remains far too dangerous to stream. Deep within the maze lies the infamous hidden room of no return. How did this lethal chamber earn its terrifying reputation? The answer lies waiting in the dark, and Kuga is about to find out. Throughout history, not a single adventurer has ever survived the secrets of this cursed hidden chamber. Once a traveler crosses this threshold, the path back to the dungeon is sealed forever. Every warrior who stepped inside was forced to expend their precious resurrection magic. Stripped of their lives, they were left broken and permanently banned from entering another dungeon again. Standing at the center of this tragedy is the cruel boss monster responsible for all the carnage. She gazes at Kuga with amusement, asking if he truly intends to fight her entirely on his own. Kuga remains completely silent, standing his ground under her intense, mocking gaze. This is the legendary boss of the Forbidden Room, a beautiful yet deadly vampire. She smirks at Kuga, playfully asking if he was abandoned and banished by his own allies. Kuga looks away, calmly admitting that betrayal is indeed one way to describe his situation. The vampire bursts into cruel laughter at his misfortune, but her amusement quickly fades into deep curiosity. She notes that despite facing certain death, Kuga remains unnaturally calm. But what secret power is Kuga hiding that gives him such terrifying confidence in the face of this legendary monster? Kuga mutters to himself, admitting he always expected his journey to end in betrayal. He looks up calmly, stating that this abandonment might actually be for the best. The vampire boss watches him from a distance, questioning his bizarrely relaxed attitude. She flashes a deceptively sweet smile, admitting she is just glad he finally arrived. When Kuga offers no response, the deadly boss asks if he wants to know her motives. Summoning a jagged black crystal, she promises that her reasoning is incredibly simple. With sadistic grin, she unleashes a massive storm of deadly shards, screaming that she did all of this simply because she was bored. Kuga groans as he raises his heavy greatsword just in time to shield himself from the lethal barrage. The violent impact of the crystals pushes him back as he struggles to hold his ground against her overwhelming power. Suddenly, the vampire teleports right beside his ear, mockingly whispering that he is far too rough with his sword. Kuga grunts as he barely deflects her lethal slash, the sheer force of her attack sending him sliding backward. The vampire smiles playfully, expressing genuine amusement that Kuga managed to block yet another of her deadly strikes. Utilizing her innate teleportation skill, the vampire vanishes and reappears right behind Kuga's head to mock his swordsmanship. Kuga realizes that if she had not whispered, he would have taken a fatal hit. Realizing defense is no longer an option, Kuga steals his resolve and prepares to launch his very first counterattack. With a sudden burst of speed, Kuga unleashes a massive swing, forcing the surprised vampire to retreat. The vampire grunts as she leaps backward to dodge the swing, but Kuga immediately rushes forward to keep up the pressure. They lock eyes in a tense, silent standoff, with only the razor-sharp edge of Kuga's blade separating them. The vampire lashes out with a flurry of strikes, but Kuga counters each blow with perfect precision. She gasps in shock as Kuga's relentless pressure begins to overwhelm her legendary defenses. Kuga grunts as he pours all his remaining strength into a decisive strike, but can he truly defeat a legendary vampire on his own? Blood pours from Kuga's mangled hands, but he instantly seals the wounds with powerful healing magic. The legendary vampire recoils in absolute shock as Kuga prepares his next move. She watches him closely, realizing that this human warrior possesses rare and versatile healing abilities. Leaning in close, she mockingly asks if Kuga is just a mediocre jack of all trades. Kuga remains silent for a moment before quietly admitting that she might be right. But internally, Kuga bitterly rejects that mocking label with pure resentment. He remembers the prestigious hero title that fooled him into believing he was destined for greatness. On paper, the legendary hero class masters everything from swordsmanship and defense to offensive, support, and healing magic. This jack-of-all-trades versatility makes them look invincible to the outside world. A hero boasts incredibly balanced, high-level stats across every single category. It appears to be the ultimate, flawless class capable of handling any threat. But there is a hidden, devastating flaw to the hero class that changes everything. A jack-of-all-trades hero simply cannot compete with warriors who dedicate themselves to mastering a single, specialized discipline. This balance issue becomes a fatal flaw due to the unique magical barrier surrounding the dungeon. Under the barrier's strict rules, raiding parties are limited to a maximum of only 4 members. With such limited space, the optimal strategy requires assembling a team of hyper-specialized experts. Every single member must maximize their unique strengths to ensure the entire party survives. For devastating physical offense, the party relies on Sarah, the highly skilled sword saint. Yuria, the saintess, takes charge of their magical offense, unleashing destructive spells from the rear. Mikari, the support caster, provides crucial buffs to keep her allies at peak performance. Yet when it comes to a dedicated specialist for healing, the team has absolutely nobody. This bizarre vacancy forces Kuga to assume the role of the party's healer, but this compromise might lead to disaster. But locking blades with this dangerous vampire begins to stir a strange sensation inside Kuga. It awakens a deep, unfamiliar feeling that he has never once experienced in his entire life. Kuga finally tastes true freedom, realizing how liberating it is to fight without the constant burden of keeping his ungrateful allies alive. The vampire suddenly halts her assault to address her human opponent directly. She admits that a certain detail has been bothering her for a while. She points toward a bizarre, ornate device hovering silently in the air nearby. Kuga turns to the device and casually identifies the strange flying object as a streaming drone. The clueless vampire snatches the drone, asking if streaming is some kind of betrayal, which leaves Kuga completely flustered. He faces an absurd dilemma, wondering if he actually has to explain modern internet broadcasting to a bloodthirsty monster. He explains that the drone broadcasts live video to the entire world, allowing viewers to comment in real time. But as the world watches, what shocking truth will the viewers uncover? While Kuga breaks down the mechanics of the streaming drone, the deadly vampire completely halts her relentless assault. Instead of attacking, she listens to his explanation with sparkling, childlike wonder. She quickly realizes that their deadly duel is being broadcast live for the entire world to witness. Kuga confirms her suspicion, quietly admitting that the drone was a parting gift from his former comrades. It was the final token they handed him right before they abandoned him to fend for himself. The vampire finds the behavior of his former allies incredibly cold and heartless. Kuga offers a brief word of thanks, surprised by the unexpected empathy from a dangerous monster. Overwhelmed with gratitude, she joyfully reveals that Kuga is the first person in her life to ever treat her with such patience and kindness. Her curiosity immediately flares up again as she eagerly asks what the live viewers are writing about her. Kuga opens the live chat to check, but what shocking reactions will the viewers leave for this cute yet deadly beast? Kuga peers at the live screen and delivers the shocking truth. The viewers find the deadly vampire absolutely adorable. The fierce bloodsucker gasps in pure disbelief, her cheeks flushing red at the bizarre compliment. She stares at the screen in disbelief as thousands of comments flood in, all calling her cute. Kuga calmly confirms that almost every single viewer is focused entirely on her adorable appearance. Embarrassed to her core, she covers her face and stammers that the humans are being deeply insolent. She pouts in frustration, demanding to know if all humans are this incredibly strange. Kuga can only stare in amusement as the fearsome monster continues to fume over her new internet fame. He gently explains that the viewers are simply speaking the honest truth, which only flusters her further. The vampire fidgets nervously before asking Kuga if she can make a highly unusual request. With sparkling eyes, she begs Kuga to teach her how to stream, launching an entirely unexpected partnership. Kuga stares in absolute shock as the deadly vampire makes her bizarre request. He cannot believe his ears and demands to know if she is actually serious. Floating effortlessly in the air, the vampire confidently doubles down on her unexpected demand. She smugly explains that the human broadcast has completely captured her interest and curiosity. With flushed cheeks and sparkling eyes, she begs Kuga to teach her everything he knows. She wants to master the art of streaming directly from him. Kuga nervously raises his hands in defeat, struggling to process this completely absurd proposition. He points out the obvious flaw in her plan, questioning if a dungeon boss can even leave her designated room. The vampire instantly dismisses his worries with supreme confidence. She reveals her daily routine of sleeping until intruders trigger her magical alarm system. After a quick wardrobe change, she simply teleports directly to the battlefield. Just like today, she was enjoying a peaceful nap before being rudely disrupted. She simply threw on her outfit and rushed over to fight him like usual. She hops around joyfully, celebrating her absolute freedom to go wherever she pleases. Kuga stares blankly as her bizarre logic leaves him completely speechless. Will this betrayed hero actually agree to train a deadly vampire to become the world's next top streamer? The enthusiastic vampire makes her ultimate pitch, begging Kuga to become her official streaming partner. She leans in close, unable to resist the intoxicating taste of Kuga's blood. She quickly backtracks, flustered, insisting that he simply seems like the perfect partner. Kuga stands there in absolute disbelief, wondering how his life is spiraling into this bizarre situation. He cannot believe how fast she goes from wanting lessons to demanding they stream together. But as Kuga looks back, he remembers the one massive hurdle holding him back. With his hero days over, Kuga struggles to find any real sense of purpose. In a flashback to his student days, Kuga and his classmates stream their dungeon adventures just for fun. Kuga always plays the protector, focusing entirely on fighting monsters and keeping his friends safe. He feels too boring for the camera, forever trapped in the shadows of others. Can this hyperactive vampire finally drag the forgotten hero back into the spotlight? Kuga remembers his former ally, Sarah, whose final parting gift he only accepted out of sheer hopelessness. At his lowest point, he simply did not care if his journey ended inside this dark dungeon. The painful betrayal left the fallen hero completely empty, drowning in a deep, inescapable despair. But everything changes when this bizarre, energetic vampire suddenly crashes into his life. Kuga knows he might be completely out of his mind to even consider her ridiculous offer. Yet, looking at her bright, infectious smile, he cannot help but feel a spark of hope. With a quiet sigh, Kuga finally gives his agreement to her crazy plan. A genuine smile returns to the hero's face as the vampire beams with absolute joy. This marks the birth of the most chaotic duo in dungeon history. But can a banished hero and a hyperactive vampire actually survive their first live broadcast, or will the streaming world tear them apart? Kuga agrees to the stream but realizes he doesn't even know her name or what she wants to broadcast. She proudly introduces herself as Alicia, but admits she has no idea who actually gave her that name. She explains that the name simply existed in her mind from the very moment she gained consciousness. Kuga quietly processes her strange origin, accepting the mystery without pushing any further. He introduces himself in return, sharing his name and age to establish a proper partnership. Alicia finds his name incredibly cool, leaving Kuga slightly flustered by her sudden compliment. Shaking off the awkwardness, Kuga steers the conversation back to their upcoming live broadcast. Alicia admits she simply had too much free time on her hands before a wild idea suddenly struck her. She asks what would happen if she stood at the absolute top of the world, making Kuga sweat. Alicia reveals her ultimate goal is to become the world's next terrifying final boss. Can Kuga survive this vampire's insane ambition, or is their stream doomed before it even begins? Kuga asks Alicia how exactly she plans on achieving her wild dream of becoming the next final boss. Alicia explains that the first step to becoming the final boss is achieving an SS rank status. Alicia hands over a handwritten list detailing the official requirements needed to achieve that legendary boss status. Kuga can only cover his face in sheer disbelief as he looks at the steep tasks. The brutal checklist demands defeating over 30 invaders, crushing both A-rank and S-rank adventurer parties, and forcing another S-rank boss to submit. They must also construct a massive castle lair and somehow vacate an existing SS rank slot. Kuga finds himself thoroughly surprised by how organized and clearly defined the dungeon's promotion rules actually are. However, Kuga hesitates, questioning if defeating human dungeon explorers is truly a necessary step for their plan. Alicia quietly confirms his suspicion, her cheerful demeanor suddenly fading as she looks at her new partner. She immediately feels guilty, admitting she got too excited about her dream to consider his human origins. Pressing her head against his chest, Alicia acknowledges that Kuga was once an explorer himself and wouldn't want to fight his own kind. But Kuga gently reassures her with a calm expression, stating that he has absolutely no issue fighting other explorers. Alicia tilts her head in confusion as Kuga turns back to reveal a shocking truth about the dungeon. He calmly explains that no rules forbid explorers from fighting one another, leaving the vampire princess completely speechless. To pass the dungeon checkpoints, every single explorer must first be cast with a mandatory auto-revival spell. This unique magic ensures that any explorer killed inside is instantly teleported to safety and fully resurrected. However, this incredible safety net is a luxury that only works once in an explorer's entire lifetime. Once an explorer uses their single resurrection, they are permanently banned from ever entering the dungeon again. Because of this guaranteed second chance, the guild grants explorers total freedom to act at their own risk. And that absolute freedom means turning their blades against each other is entirely permitted. Kuga reveals that some popular streamers even build their entire content around hunting down other players. He then warns Alicia about the 4 elite S-rank parties currently dominating the dungeon's leaderboard. Kuga introduces the third prominent group of elite explorers, known simply as the Duelists. Alicia gasps in genuine surprise, eager to learn more about these powerful human opponents. Alicia pulls out the official dungeon guidelines, pointing out a crucial rule for boss promotions. The official document confirms that ascending to an SS-rank boss requires successfully defeating an entire S-rank explorer party. Alicia realizes that with only 4 S-rank parties in existence, her targets are extremely limited. Kuga confirms her calculation as they both ponder the sheer difficulty of climbing the dungeon ranks. Alicia looks up at her partner, suddenly curious about his own rank before he became a monster. Kuga casually reveals that he used to belong to an elite A-rank party before his betrayal. Alicia nods in understanding, slowly piecing together how the hierarchy of power works between them. Alicia asks if there are still stronger explorers out there, unaware of the storm her question will unleash. Kuga confirms her suspicions with a nod, knowing she is absent from the official lists of S-rank bosses. Kuga directly asks Alicia about her actual rank. Alicia delivers her answer with complete honesty, revealing that she does not possess a rank at all. Kuga wonders if her lack of rank means she is a hidden boss, and Alicia admits that is likely the case. With a playful smirk, Alicia explains that starting her climb entirely from zero sounds much more entertaining. She leans in close, preparing to reveal the ultimate concept behind their joint streaming channel. Alicia passionately declares that they will document her entire journey live, streaming her rise from a rankless boss to the ultimate final boss of the dungeon. By broadcasting her absolute dominance, she plans to strike pure terror into the hearts of human explorers. Alicia wants to put an end to the tasteless activities of these human invaders once and for all. With a dark glare, she targets dungeon streaming itself, but how will the human world react when a monster hijacks their feeds? Alicia's grand plan sounds amazing, but Kuga immediately spots a massive flaw in her logic. He silently wonders what his actual role is supposed to be in this chaotic broadcast. A few hours fly by as the unlikely duo prepares to make internet history. Standing before the floating camera, Alicia enthusiastically waves to check if the signal is working. Instantly, the screen lights up with shocked reactions as human viewers realize this is not a hoax. Alicia officially kicks off their first broadcast, completely unaware of the massive storm of comments beginning to flood the chat. Kuga can only watch in absolute disbelief as the numbers spike. The sheer volume of incoming messages is unprecedented, proving that the human world is already completely hooked on their stream. An ecstatic Alicia grabs Kuga, celebrating the massive success of their opening minutes. Kuga reluctantly agrees, knowing they have officially crossed a line that no monster has ever breached before. News of a banished human hero teaming up with a dungeon boss spreads like wildfire across the globe, but how will the human empire respond to this ultimate threat? Alicia excitedly announces to the live camera that their very first stream is already gathering an explosive amount of attention. She eagerly declares that they will be doing an explorer hunt for their next broadcast, though she stammers over her words halfway through as Kuga watches nervously. Correcting herself with bloodthirsty enthusiasm, Alicia boldly promises a ruthless human hunting stream, leaving Kuga sweating bullets at her sheer intensity. The live stream's chat completely erupts into a chaotic frenzy as shocked human viewers worldwide realize a dungeon boss has just declared war on them. Alicia urgently points something out to Kuga as they stand at the dungeon entrance. A group of human explorers approaches, and Alicia confirms they are the invaders she mentioned. Alicia smirks, noting the explorers arrived exactly as predicted, while Kuga remains stoic. 2 of the explorers, a man and a woman, express joy at finally reaching their destination. The female explorer observes how nostalgic it feels to be adventuring with her old high school clubmates. She begins to tell him there was something specific she always wanted, and he acknowledges her sentiment before trailing off. She reveals her long-held wish to be in the same adventuring party with Kenzu. Kenzu looks at her, confused by her sudden, unexpected confession. Suddenly, a loud clunk echoes, and Kenzu and his companion turn with wide, shocked eyes. They both stare in utter disbelief, realizing a battle has unexpectedly begun nearby. The battle begins abruptly as two voices cry out, Yamajita, and Chikako. Alicia stands victorious over the fallen explorers, one of whom, a man, curses his defeat as blood stains the ground. Kenzu reaches out desperately for Akina, while she, in turn, calls out his name, both struggling amidst their wounds. Kenzu's eyes widen in disbelief, questioning why their adventure had to end so abruptly and tragically. Kenzu reflects on their day, remembering how smoothly things had been going, how they'd overcome past dangers, and how he never imagined such a dire outcome. He believes they weren't overconfident. Kenzu's blood-soaked hand strains towards the unconscious Akina, uttering her name in a desperate plea. With a pained expression, Kenzu wishes he could just reach out and touch Akina, his hand trembling. Akina's bloodied hands weakly reach out, calling Kenzu's name with her last vestiges of strength. In a sudden, vivid flashback, Akina's face appears, wide-eyed and smiling brightly, reflecting a happier time. Kenzu stares upward in shock, while Akina's smiling face still lingers, a painful memory amidst their defeat. Alicia beams brightly, thanking Kenzu for their efforts, a painful memory of her past kindness. In the present, Kenzu's face is contorted in a silent scream of anguish. Kenzu stares up in shock, questioning Alicia's true identity as she floats above them in her terrifying demon form. She responds with a dismissive, Alicia's expression hardens as she coldly reveals their purpose: they are simply hunting humans. Kenzu's eyes widen in disbelief and outrage at Alicia's chilling confession. He struggles to comprehend the sudden, brutal reality. Alicia calmly states that she cannot understand Kenzu's outrage at their actions. She then questions Kenzu, asking if their human hunting isn't simply what humans themselves do regularly. Kenzu reacts with a silent gasp, clearly stunned by Alicia's unexpected comparison. Alicia then directly challenges Kenzu, demanding to know the true reasons behind their dungeon streaming. She presses further, speculating that their motives are either money or a craving for recognition. Kenzu's anger boils over at her accusations. Alicia claims she can understand their desire for recognition, but coldly points out that her side is risking their lives for what she dismisses as human hobbies. Alicia coldly tells Kenzu he should be grateful for their actions, her expression subtly mocking. Kenzu stares in outrage, cursing Alicia and her cruel words as his anger boils over. Suddenly, Alicia blasts away, moving with incredible speed across the dungeon floor. Alicia then feigns ignorance, asking Kenzu if he was speaking, before quickly floating off again with a dismissive, Her casual disregard is infuriating. Kenzu remains silent, his expression unreadable as he watches Alicia retreat. Kenzu silently acknowledges that Alicia went all out in her attack, reflecting on the severity of the situation. He thinks about the B-class party of young hopefuls who were ruthlessly slaughtered, a grim reality of their dangerous work. Kenzu realizes Alicia the vampire, with her immense strength, shouldn't even be casually roaming this floor, and concludes their encounter was a complete accident. Kenzu, still reeling from the slaughter, laments the poor victims. Alicia, meanwhile, casually asks Kuga if their stream is getting decent viewership. Kenzu responds with an uncomfortable, yeah, clearly still processing the unsettling events. Alicia grins, pleased that the stream's viewership is high. Alicia turns to Kenzu, eagerly asking if the humans watching their stream are now sufficiently horrified. The live chat explodes with outrage, viewers expressing disgust and horror at the monster's actions, some even calling for their death. Alicia smiles smugly, observing that the human viewers are indeed learning their lesson through their gruesome broadcast. The chat suddenly shifts from outrage to a disturbing fascination, with viewers describing an inexplicable rush and burning sensation. Alicia reacts with surprise. A viewer reminds everyone that the slaughtered adventurers were the same ones who experimented on monsters. The viewer elaborates, detailing the adventurers' cruel experiments on slimes, suggesting they were morally corrupt from the start. Alicia, still surprised by the turn of events, declares that they will continue the stream for now. The stream's comments escalate into a chaotic frenzy of excitement and fear, as some viewers embrace a new, dark awakening while Kuga tries to calm the humans, reminding them monsters are dangerous. Overwhelmed by the stream's unexpected outcome, a distressed Alicia reaches out to Kuga, calling his name. Distraught by the stream's bizarre turn, Alicia wonders if humans, capable of such cruelty towards monsters, are themselves becoming the real monsters. Alicia vehemently declares that humans who experiment on monsters are even worse than the creatures they fear, a sentiment Kuga hesitantly acknowledges. Kuga, burdened by the unsettling truth, finds himself unable to deny Alicia's harsh assessment of humanity's darker side. With the human viewer's unpredictable reactions, Alicia's carefully laid plans for the broadcast are now completely derailed, threatening to spin out of control as a new, unknown force begins to stir. Kenzu walks with Alicia through a bustling city square, surrounded by flower petals and curious onlookers. Alicia turns to Kenzu with a sweet smile, extending her hand and suggesting they hold hands. Kenzu looks surprised, a blush spreading across his face as he hesitates to take Alicia's hand. Alicia floats a short distance away, turning to Kenzu with a questioning look at his hesitation. Alicia teases Kenzu, asking if he's embarrassed by her suggestion, and he quietly admits it. Alicia giggles, commenting on Kenzu's surprising shyness, which he sheepishly acknowledges. Alicia firmly takes Kenzu's hand, declaring they will use a direct warp to their destination. Alicia stands confidently in a new location, looking back at Kenzu and asking how the warp felt. Kenzu gazes out at a vast, enchanting city bathed in moonlight and falling petals, as Alicia welcomes him to the city of monsters. Alicia explains that, as its name implies, this is the city of monsters, a place where usually only monsters are able to enter. Kenzu looks on, surprised by this revelation. A viewer expresses astonishment online, captivated by the mind-blowing revelation of an entire city inhabited solely by monsters. Another viewer comments on the city's unexpected charm, finding the unique architecture and atmosphere quite lovely. The adorable monster residents further sway public opinion, with a viewer admitting they might start sympathizing with them. Alicia smiles serenely, acknowledging the positive reactions pouring in from the human viewers. Alicia tells Kenzu he might be the very first human to ever set foot within the legendary city of monsters. Kenzu questions if his presence is truly acceptable here, still processing the implications of being the first human. Alicia assures Kenzu it's fine, explaining that while not explicitly forbidden, his presence is still highly unusual. Alicia asks Kenzu if he feels safe, prompting Kenzu to reflect on his human nature in this monster city. Alicia confidently states it should be fine, beginning to explain their relationship before cutting herself off. Alicia looks surprised, seemingly unsure how to define her exact relationship with Kenzu. Alicia attempts to define their relationship, suggesting Kenzu is her something, while he stands by, unsure how to respond. Kuga quietly accepts the ambiguous role, acknowledging the truth in her vague description. And so, Kuga assumes the undefined, yet crucial, role of Alicia's something. Kenzu questions the legality of streaming from the city of monsters, but Alicia confidently assures him it's perfectly fine. There are no rules against it. Viewers online are amazed, commenting on the vampire's carefree attitude and the unprecedented nature of streaming from this hidden monster city. They speculate about its recent discovery and find the sites incredibly fascinating. However, Alicia reveals a secondary objective. Her ultimate goal is to become the final boss. This objective involves instilling fear in humans and preventing unethical activities like dungeon streaming. Alicia's expression suddenly turns to one of pure shock. A viewer reflects on the charm of the city, finding it surprising that monsters also lead such normal daily lives. Other viewers start sympathizing with the adorable monsters, realizing their perspectives might shift significantly after seeing them. Alicia, smiling serenely, invites Kenzu to her temporary abode, leaving us to wonder if her actions were truly calculated. Kenzu and the surrounding monsters seem taken aback by something unexpected unfolding in the street. Kenzu's surprise quickly turns to alarm as the monsters around him also react with visible agitation. Kenzu's eyes widen in shock, spotting Alicia and Kuga walking behind him, while someone nearby questions if it's the vampire-chan they've heard about. Suddenly, an enormous, imposing minotaur stomps into view, its powerful presence dominating the entire street. Online viewers erupt in panic, identifying the monstrous new arrival as an S-rank boss and desperately urging Kenzu to flee. Kenzu stares in utter disbelief, trapped between the creature and his live stream. Alicia greets the imposing minotaur with surprising familiarity and a cheerful smile, affectionately calling him Min-chan. The massive minotaur looks down at Alicia, seemingly perplexed, as she innocently asks what's wrong. Online viewers are bewildered by Alicia's casual address, questioning the affectionate nickname for an S-rank boss, while Kenzu remains stunned. Alicia turns to Kuga, standing beside the towering minotaur, and announces her intention to make introductions. Alicia introduces the formidable minotaur to Kuga, playfully calling the monstrous boss her friend, Min-chan. Alicia then introduces Kuga, referring to him ambiguously as her something, much to Kenzu's continued alarm. The minotaur, surprisingly polite, bows and introduces himself as Minotaurus, prompting Kuga to awkwardly thank him for his kindness. Minotaurus expresses concern to Alicia, suggesting it might be inappropriate to bring a human like Kuga into their monster city. Kuga, observing the Minotaur's voice, finds it surprisingly cute, but struggles to reconcile this with the monster's sensible warning. Minotaurus apologizes for the abruptness, but sternly tells Kuga that he is something else, his gaze sharp. Minotaurus acknowledges Kuga's remarkable courage for entering the city of monsters, prompting an apologetic response from Kuga. Kuga appears flustered, while online viewers agree with Minotaurus's assessment, with some even finding the massive monster surprisingly cute. Kuga harbors doubts about the appropriateness of a human entering the city of monsters, yet he has two compelling reasons to be here. Kuga's first reason to remain is the grave risk of returning to human society right after the massacre of his good-natured party. The second compelling reason is Alicia, who likely cannot exit the dungeon herself. Kuga contemplated separating from Alicia, but at present, neither of them possesses any means of communication. While a rendezvous might be possible, Kuga recognizes there is a chance they may never meet again if their separation fails. In contrast to Kuga's serious contemplations, Alicia lets out a silly, aha aha, while online viewers comment on Kuga being a weirdo and a pain. Alicia points to herself, innocently asking if the viewers are saying something about her, while Kuga looks on with a blank expression. Alicia then turns to the viewers, innocently asking what Komazimi means. Kuga explains that Komazimi is the name of his former party, the one that betrayed and killed him. Minotaurus acknowledges Kuga's explanation, his large figure still observing the human. Alicia then addresses Minotaurus, affectionately calling him Min-chan as she prepares to speak. The Minotaur looks on intently as Alicia continues, preparing to defend Kuga. Alicia firmly declares that Kuga is her something, warning Minotaurus not to harm him, much to Kuga's surprise. Minotaurus appears flustered, confused by Alicia's ambiguous and protective declaration regarding Kuga. An online viewer comments that Minotaurus seems to be the only sensible one in this unusual situation. Kuga lets out a sigh as the live stream abruptly ends, leaving them without their online audience. Alicia, ever whimsical, asks if they can take a small detour, prompting a hesitant agreement from Kuga. Alicia wonders aloud what Kuga might like, while he softly replies that he enjoys apples, as they walk through the monster city. Alicia considers Kuga's simple preference, reaching for one of the many apples around them. A warm smile spreads across Alicia's face as she reveals her own fondness for apples, particularly the green ones, but the monster city holds more than just fruit for their unexpected journey. Alicia asks the monster vendor the price for 2 apples, and he quickly replies that they will cost 500 yen. Kuga lets out a loud exclamation of surprise, completely taken aback by the exchange. Kuga tries to interject, wondering if he misheard something, as Alicia looks on, asking if there's a problem. The monster vendor effortlessly produces both a 500 yen coin and then a 1000 yen bill, presenting the larger note to Alicia. Kuga shouts in utter disbelief, completely stunned by the monster's actions. Kuga clarifies his surprise, explaining that he is merely astonished they are using the same currency as the humans. Alicia and the monster look on, confused by his reaction. Alicia then questions Kuga, wondering if his surprise about the shared currency is truly that strange of a reaction. Kuga begins to ponder the implications, considering that if the currency of the Japanese dungeon is yen, then perhaps other monster cities in different countries might also use their respective national currencies. He realizes this implies a larger global system, noting that dungeons are currently confirmed to exist in 9 countries worldwide: Japan, the United States, China, Thailand, UAE, France, Egypt, Brazil, and Australia. Kuga realizes that each of these 9 nations, including Japan, possesses exactly one dungeon within its borders. He further understands that the entrance to the Japanese dungeon is specifically located in Tokyo's Ariake district. Kuga then contemplates how the Japanese dungeon, with China and Thailand representing other Asian dungeons, has become somewhat isolated. This isolation leads to its population being overwhelmingly Japanese, a unique cultural aspect. Kuga, still pondering the economic system, directly asks Alicia where the monsters acquire their currency. Alicia looks back at him, confused by the question. Alicia explains that they receive small amounts of money on a daily basis, implying a consistent, regular distribution. Kuga quickly connects her explanation to a concept he knows, wondering if it's a form of basic income. Kuga insists on paying for the apples, stating it's no big deal since the currency is identical to human money. Alicia, however, is visibly confused by his offer. Alicia smiles warmly and firmly tells Kuga not to hold back, graciously insisting that she will treat him today. Later that evening, under the soft glow of a full moon, Kuga and Alicia arrive at a cozy, inviting house. Inside, Alicia gently encourages Kuga to relax and make himself comfortable. Kuga finds himself inside Alicia's temporary home, processing the reality of his current situation. This space is merely a placeholder until she eventually constructs her own grand castle. Kuga initially intended to stay at a local inn, keeping his distance from her. Alicia, however, remains completely unwary and cheerfully demands to know why he is still hesitating. She graciously welcomes Kuga into her home, settling him down for a quiet evening together. Kuga sits in silence, visibly nervous as he contemplates the implications of their shared dinner. Alicia smiles warmly, clearly excited to share this simple meal with her guest. To Kuga's surprise, the grand dinner turns out to be nothing more than a single green apple. The mood shifts as Kuga struggles to stay composed, while Alicia drifts into a relaxing bath under the moonlight. As the warm water soothes her, Alicia lets out a soft, blissful sigh of pure contentment. Kuga calmly continues eating his meager apple, seemingly unbothered by the quiet atmosphere. A box labeled as a simple meal appears, signaling that dinner is finally over. Kuga sits alone in the living area, his expression turning to one of dawning realization. Outside, the full moon illuminates the house as Alicia suddenly lets out a startled cry. Alicia frantically pulls at Kuga, warning him that a major problem has just surfaced. Alicia turns red with embarrassment, stammering that there is only one bed available for them to share. Alicia stares at the single bed in the room, clearly distressed by the lack of sleeping arrangements. Alicia flushes with deep embarrassment, noting that it is highly improper for a monster to share a bed with a human. Kuga keeps a stoic face while internally acknowledging that his day has been filled with entirely unprecedented circumstances. Alicia insists that as his host, she cannot possibly allow Kuga to spend the night sleeping on the floor. Kuga calmly brushes off her concern, but Alicia sighs in defeat, realizing there is simply no other choice. Kuga suddenly announces he has a good solution, his eyes lighting up with a simple idea. Kuga quickly rolls himself up into a makeshift sleeping bag on the floor, leaving the bed to Alicia. Alicia stares down at him, her expression a mix of bewilderment and quiet irritation at his extreme reaction. Alicia watches Kuga drift off to sleep while she remains wide awake under the bright moonlight outside. But as silence falls over the room, Alicia's eyes sharpen with a sudden, dangerous realization. A mysterious smile creeps across Alicia's face as she leans in close. Without hesitation, Alicia crawls directly over Kuga while he sleeps. She presses herself against him, her movements calculated and deliberate. Kuga remains still, his expression unreadable as Alicia lingers near his side. Suddenly, a sharp cry erupts as Kuga experiences an unexpected, painful sting. Kuga wakes in a panic, staring at the intruder while Alicia looks on with wide, startled eyes. Kuga demands to know why his anesthesia failed to work. Alicia apologizes, though her true motives remain unclear. Kuga pins her down, demanding an immediate explanation for her strange, aggressive behavior. Kuga brandishes a syringe, his frustration mounting as he presses for the truth. Alicia finally confesses her true intent, admitting she only wanted to take a sample of his blood. Alicia begs Kuga to let her take a blood sample while he is still wide awake. Teary-eyed and flushed, Alicia confesses that she simply cannot forget the unique taste of his blood from earlier today. Kuga stares in disbelief. He realizes that for this vampire, the political matters they discussed were never the true priority. Kuga watches her intently, wondering if she really just acted out of a desperate, primal craving for his life force. Kuga finally breaks his silence, telling her to listen closely as he begins to formulate a compromise. He offers to provide a blood sample voluntarily, provided that the extraction process does not end up killing him. Alicia freezes in total shock, her eyes widening as she processes his unexpected willingness to cooperate. She stammers in disbelief, asking if he is truly serious about handing over his blood so easily. Overcome with joy, Alicia lunges forward to embrace Kuga, thanking him profusely for his sudden generosity. With the deal struck, Alicia wastes no time drawing the sample, and Kuga watches as the vampire finally gets her wish. Alicia stares at Kuga with a flush of deep satisfaction, her primal hunger finally sated. But as the silence lingers between them, one must wonder if this dangerous intimacy will lead to a bond or a catastrophe. Alicia confirms that the blood sample she just secured is more than enough for her needs. Kuga pauses to ask if she typically resorts to biting people directly to feed. Alicia flushes and admits that biting is entirely inappropriate for several complicated reasons. Kuga acknowledges the explanation with a simple nod, accepting the strange reality of their arrangement. Alicia reminds him that despite their current connection, he is neither her kin nor a loyal follower. Kuga remains stoic, staring into the distance as the world outside shifts from day to night. Suddenly, a surge of energy erupts, and Kuga cries out as the intensity overwhelms him. The dust settles as Kuga and Alicia stand by the glowing magic circle, having completed their task. Alicia beams with excitement, announcing that this latest collection brings her total to 26. Kuga calculates the figures, noting that combining yesterday's 4 samples with today's 4 brings them to 8 total. Alicia reviews the daunting requirements for achieving SS rank status, noting she has already hunted 18 invaders in her past. With only 4 more encounters needed to reach 30, Alicia outlines the remaining steps to clear her path toward the rank. Their live stream chat is buzzing with viewers praising the ease of their latest victory and cheering on their progress. Kuga feels overwhelmed by the constant stream of encouragement from the audience as he watches the messages roll in. Kuga observes that the viewers are quickly adapting to their new hunting-themed content, despite some expressing clear disgust. The chat remains a mix of supportive messages and harsh criticism, reflecting the polarizing nature of their dangerous work. Kuga pauses to collect his thoughts, signaling to Alicia that it is time to move forward with their plan. A sudden, cheerful greeting interrupts them from the shadows, prompting them to turn and locate their next potential target. Alicia and Kuga freeze in total disbelief, their eyes widening as they process the unexpected arrival of a new party. A group of strangers stands before them, and as the dust clears, the two realize their next challenge has arrived. The chat explodes as viewers identify the mysterious group as the infamous Monster Slayers. The group steps forward, introducing themselves with a casual air that masks their true intentions. The chat clarifies that this party acts as underlings to the brutal S-rank group known as the Evil Slayers. Viewers break down the 4 top-tier streaming styles, highlighting the cruelty behind the Evil Slayers' methods. The channel notes that the Evil Slayers are notorious for hunting monsters in uniquely cruel and sadistic ways. Kuga realizes these underlings are cut from the same cloth as their masters, as the group leader calls out to them. The leader of the Monster Slayers mocks them, claiming their current activities have caught his interest. He smiles, letting Kuga know that their recent stream performance has brought them unwanted attention. Alicia remains oblivious to the threat, reacting to the attention with a naive, excited giggle. The audience warns Kuga that this party is incredibly aggressive and dangerous to engage. As the chat desperately warns Alicia to be careful, the Monster Slayers prepare for their next move. The Monster Slayers lock their predatory gazes onto Kuga and Alicia, their twisted grin signaling that the hunt is officially underway. A sudden, violent strike tears through the ground, forcing Kuga and his companion to scramble backward. Kuga and the vampire narrowly avoid the impact, their eyes locked on the aggressor who just launched the surprise attack. The attacker mocks their reflexes, while his companion watches with a cold, detached expression from the sidelines. Kuga questions the identity of these A-class hunters, trying to gauge the true extent of the threat they pose. The vampire remains eerily composed, finding the sudden arrival of these powerful adversaries surprisingly convenient. Kuga turns to face the group of strangers now blocking their path, his confusion giving way to growing concern. The vampire realizes that engaging this A-class party will help her fulfill her advancement conditions, and she eagerly prepares to strike. With a wild grin, the attacker lunges forward, shouting his excitement as he closes the distance to initiate combat. Steel clashes against steel as the two combatants collide in a flurry of motion, neither side willing to yield an inch. The vampire struggles to parry the heavy blow, while the attacker laughs, his manic expression broadcast live for the cheering chat. The hunter singles out Shidahara, the fencer, warning his party to be careful of the man's lethal blade. Alicia registers the sudden shout as a fireball erupts from the enemy, forcing her to react instantly. The blast tears through the air, but Alicia remains focused on the impending threat. Alicia manifests her dark power, preparing to intercept the strike with her own supernatural abilities. The hunters coordinate their assault, shielding their vanguard while launching a flurry of projectile attacks. Shidahara relentlessly strikes at the vampire, taunting her as he maintains his aggressive offensive pressure. Alicia coldly demands the fencer keep his distance, clearly annoyed by his persistent and frantic assault. Shidahara lunges with a wild, manic grin, determined to land a strike on his elusive target. He unleashes a specialized combat skill, a lightning-fast quick-slash designed to overwhelm her defenses. Kuga watches the dust settle, his eyes locking onto his opponent as the battle reaches a breaking point. Kuga stands resolute with his blade drawn, shielding the vampire from the approaching party. The vampire dismisses the need for assistance, though she remains wary of the looming threat. She notes that it is finally time for Kuga to stop holding back and prove his worth in battle. With a subtle nod, she confirms they are ready to face the opposition head-on. They divide the labor, with Kuga stepping forward to engage the vanguard while she prepares to handle the remaining 3. Kuga acknowledges the plan, his focus sharpening as he prepares to unleash his hidden strength. The hunter lunges with a desperate, manic vow to finish the vampire, but Kuga intercepts him, leaving their fates hanging by a thread as the chapter draws to a close. Shidahara slams into the ground, mocking the hero for finally stepping into the fight. The fencer sneers at the hero, questioning if he really believes he can emerge victorious. Shidahara is a master of close-quarters combat, utilizing his blistering speed to overwhelm any opponent. The Job Rankings Institute labels the hero as a generalist who lacks mastery in any single field. His unique ability to join parties is noted as being largely ineffective. In contrast, Shidahara is ranked with S-tier agility, making him a nightmare for anyone forced into a duel. Shidahara demands that the hero prepare himself, eager to assert his dominance and end this confrontation quickly. The fencer unleashes a vicious insult, branding the hero a talentless loser as he moves for the kill. Shidahara activates his magic, chanting an acceleration spell to push his speed beyond human limits. The blades clash with a deafening ring as the hero barely manages to intercept the fencer's lethal strike. Shidahara laughs, openly disgusted that a legendary hero has stooped low enough to protect monsters. Shidahara mocks the hero, claiming he was easily fooled by the superficial ranking of his job. The fencer continues his taunts, questioning if the hero realizes his own party abandoned him. Kuga reflects on his past, admitting that he knew he was the only one holding the team together. He realizes that without his guidance, the former party would have crumbled under the weight of their own incompetence. Kuga watches his former allies depart, acknowledging that the group once meant everything to him. With a cold shift in resolve, Kuga decides to stop caring about the past and embraces the chaos before him. Kuga unleashes a devastating strike, cutting through the battlefield with terrifying force. Natsu looks on in disbelief, unable to process the sheer power the hero just displayed. Shidahara falls, his companions screaming in terror as they witness their leader's swift defeat. The dust settles, leaving Kuga and his companion standing over the broken remains of the enemy vanguard. Kuga and his companion stand in silence as the dust from the battle settles around them. The atmosphere remains heavy, reflecting the toll of their recent, brutal confrontation. His companion notes the incredible power Kuga just unleashed upon their enemies. She addresses Kuga directly, remarking that he has finally crossed a line from which there is no return. Kuga acknowledges the weight of her words, confirming that there is no turning back from his path now. He considers the grim reality that killing someone for the first time carries a weight that cannot be undone. Magic circles illuminate the ground, proving that even if victims revive, the act of killing them remains absolute. The cycle of resurrection only begins after death occurs, leaving the victim truly dead for a brief, critical moment. Kuga accepts that the deed is done, he has taken lives, regardless of whether they eventually return to the world. The consequences arrive swiftly as the monster slayers are permanently banned from all dungeons, leaving their future uncertain. Kuga's recent actions have effectively barred the monster slayers from all future dungeon expeditions. Kuga remains cold, dismissive of the consequences as he and his companion stand in the desolate ruins. She probes him, asking how it feels to finally take a human life for the first time. Kuga admits that ending a life felt no different than his usual work of cutting down monsters. His companion approves of this detached mindset, encouraging him to keep that cold resolve as they move forward. Suddenly, the job stone begins to glow, signaling a shift in the status of his power. Kuga watches in silence as a new job tree unlocks, indicating his path to power is expanding. His companion approaches with a document in hand, clearly impressed by the rapid progress he is making. She confirms that he has successfully completed 2 of the necessary conditions for his next evolution. The list shows he has killed enough invaders and defeated an A-rank party, leaving only the greater challenges ahead. Kuga realizes he hasn't explained the mechanics of these conditions to his live stream audience, while his companion eagerly chimes in. Before he can elaborate, a sudden, violent strike tears through the air, forcing them to react instantly to the ambush. Kuga and his companion scramble to avoid the incoming blow, their expressions shifting from confusion to immediate defensive awareness. The dust clears as they narrowly evade the attack, Kuga standing his ground with his weapon ready to counter. Kuga looks up, bewildered by the suddenness of the assault as he tries to identify the source of the hidden attacker. The chat erupts in shock as Yulia, the saintess of Kumazimi, descends upon them, leaving Kuga to face an unexpected and formidable new threat. 50 years ago, mysterious dungeons suddenly appeared on Earth, forever altering the course of human history. These deep, uncharted spaces were quickly overrun by swarms of dangerous and powerful monsters. At the same time, humans who ventured inside unlocked new job classes and supernatural abilities. They began to tap into powers far beyond their normal limits to survive the depths. In the modern era, dungeon exploration has shifted from a desperate struggle to a public spectacle. Dungeon crawling and live streaming have become the absolute norm for adventurers seeking fame and fortune online. Kuga, a hero labeled as a simple jack of all trades, found himself cast out by his former party. Betrayed and alone, Kuga was dumped into a hidden boss chamber to face a lonely demise. However, the beautiful vampire girl Alicia appeared before him, changing his path entirely. Alicia shows an intense, almost childlike fascination with the world of live streaming and digital influence. With no other options, Kuga reluctantly teams up with Alicia to launch an unprecedented hunter streaming series that targets other unsuspecting adventurers. A massive weapon slams into the ground, narrowly missing Kuga and Alicia as the ambush begins. Yulia, the saintess of Kumazimi, descends into the chamber with a lethal, cold-blooded intensity. The live stream chat goes wild as viewers instantly recognize the legendary saintess entering the fray. Alicia recoils from the sudden assault, looking genuinely caught off guard by the unexpected arrival. Alicia demands to know why this intruder is attacking so aggressively, calling for a moment of calm. Yulia ignores the plea, accusing Alicia of ruining their hard work and calling her a thieving cat. The chat clarifies the situation, revealing that Yulia was once a member of Kuga's former party. Yulia corrects her name for them, insisting that they remember the name of Kumazimi correctly. Alicia remains confused by the sudden confrontation, unsure of how to process the unfolding drama. Alicia locks eyes with the Saintess, finally realizing this is one of the people who abandoned Kuga. The atmosphere grows heavy as the Saintess demands to know what Kuga's new plan is. Kuga pauses, a sudden memory of his past betrayal surfacing as he stares at his former comrade. He recalls how Yulia remained completely silent the day the party cast him out into the dungeon. Her cold, unmoving expression back then left him with no way to read her true intentions. Yulia admits she is terrible at expressing herself, but her grip on her weapon tightens with resolve. She declares that since words fail her, she will resort to brute force to settle the score. Alicia recoils in shock as the Saintess lunges forward with explosive speed and power. The live stream audience erupts with excitement, recognizing the legendary strength of the muscle-brained Saintess. Viewers label the Saintess as a gorilla, cheering on the spectacle of this high-stakes clash. Alicia watches the incoming assault, wondering if she can even survive such a brutal onslaught. The livestream audience confirms the Saintess is the real deal as she prepares to strike. Viewers marvel at how she spams light magic at point-blank range without a hint of hesitation. Her bluntness and love for hand-to-hand combat earned her the infamous nickname, Miss Gorilla, among her former party. Yulia activates her Holy Night magic, her footsteps cracking the very earth beneath her as she charges. Alicia braces for impact while Yulia closes the distance with a devastating, high-speed strike. The Saintess lands with earth-shattering force, but as the dust settles, the screen cuts to black before Alicia's fate is revealed. Kuga stands his ground as his opponent unleashes a flurry of high-speed magical strikes. The intensity of the assault pushes Kuga to his limit, leaving him struggling to maintain his defense. Yulia finds herself overwhelmed, realizing that even her formidable capabilities are beginning to falter under the pressure. A sharp blade slices through the air, narrowly missing its target as the battle reaches a fever pitch. Yulia takes a direct hit, her defenses crumbling as she is forced back by the sheer force of the impact. She reaches out as if to halt the flow of time, her expression hardening with renewed defiance against her fate. She demands to know what Kuga is planning, her voice laced with suspicion as she confronts him directly. Kuga remains calm, turning his back on his former comrade to focus his attention on the wounded girl. He kneels beside her and casts a healing spell, ignoring the lingering threat of the ongoing conflict. As the light of his magic fades, the battlefield grows deathly silent, leaving their next move a complete mystery. The vampire girl stares in confusion as the tide of battle suddenly shifts. She calls out to Kuga, her voice trembling with uncertainty at his abrupt change in demeanor. Kuga calmly addresses Yulia, firmly ordering her to disengage and leave the area immediately. Yulia is stunned by the command, questioning if he is truly addressing her. Kuga confirms his intent with a cold, unwavering gaze, leaving no room for argument. Yulia struggles to accept the sudden halt in combat, insisting that she is not finished yet. Kuga acknowledges her sentiment but remains completely unmoved by her desire to continue fighting. He notes that both have yet to reveal their full power, but explains that the current battle is irrelevant. Kuga shifts his focus entirely, prioritizing the safety of the girl he is protecting above the duel. Kuga reveals his transformation into a vampire and declares he will not tolerate any further threats against Alicia. Kuga stands amidst the ruins, watching as the vampire girl struggles to process the sudden turn of events. Confusion washes over him as the girl suddenly breaks down. He stands there, completely unsure of how to handle her outburst. Composure shatters entirely, and she begins to weep openly while calling him a complete fool. She screams at the top of her lungs, wailing in despair. The sheer intensity of her cries echoes across the desolate battlefield. Kuga is blindsided by the public shaming. He watches the live feedback scroll by, realizing that everyone is watching him make her cry. He turns away, questioning if he is truly the villain here. He also wonders why she called him by that strange name. The girl pauses, finally regaining her composure. She looks up at him with teary eyes and offers a soft, hesitant word of gratitude. They walk toward the looming gates of the silent castle, but as the path ahead reveals itself, a chilling presence begins to stir within the shadows. Alicia enthusiastically reaches out, demanding they find some minions to bolster their forces immediately. Kuga stares back, momentarily caught off guard by the sudden shift in her demands. He recalls the recent battle against Yulia and wonders exactly why she had arrived alone to challenge them. Kuga chooses not to overthink the encounter, simply sending a quick check-in message to ensure Yulia returns safely. He stares at his screen, waiting for a response while trying to shake off the lingering tension. A notification pings with a single, short word from Yulia, confirming her safe return to base. With that settled, Kuga turns his attention back to Alicia's complex plan to ascend to an SS rank boss. Alicia reiterates her goal, emphasizing that recruiting minions is the next critical step in their evolution. The list of requirements is clear, with the recruitment task highlighted as the current priority for progression. Kuga acknowledges the plan, but he remains wary of the looming challenges still ahead for them. Kuga stares at the screen, questioning the complex requirements for becoming an SS rank boss. He scans the checklist, wondering if defeating specific targets is a necessary step for their evolution. Alicia confirms his suspicions with immediate enthusiasm, signaling that they are on the right track. Kuga pauses, trying to piece together the implications of her ambitious plan. He asks if she intends to recruit the Minotaur they previously encountered as a minion. Alicia shuts down the idea immediately, firmly declaring the Minotaur to be her personal friend. Kuga yields, accepting her decision while noting that they need to look elsewhere for their roster. He reviews the list of potential candidates, realizing the Minotaur is officially off the table. The history of the bosses reveals there were originally 8, with a single Jackie at the center of it all. Every time a boss fell, the cycle repeated, causing the total number of threats to climb to 8. The world of bosses is a constant cycle, with 8 powerful entities always vying for control. Alicia outlines the path to power, confirming that defeating a sitting S-rank boss is a mandatory requirement. For Kuga, who has only ever known the A-rank life, this new level of ambition is entirely uncharted territory. Kuga pivots the conversation, asking Alicia how a leader actually convinces a minion to join their cause. Alicia explains that recruitment usually relies on the minion's own free will to choose their master. She clarifies that the potential minion must be mentally prepared to submit to Kuga's authority. Kuga listens intently as Alicia mentions that she personally prefers an alternative method for recruitment. Kuga asks for clarification, wondering if she means they must physically drain the blood of their targets. Alicia confirms his guess but admits she personally avoids that gruesome process whenever possible. Kuga jokingly remarks on her sudden show of morality, but she quickly dismisses his teasing with a firm denial. Alicia remains picky, insisting she only consumes the blood she finds palatable. Kuga reflects on their recent battles, silently questioning the strange logic behind her feeding habits. In reality, Alicia avoided direct consumption, opting to absorb the life force through her tentacles instead. It becomes clear that Alicia developed a specific, lingering preference for Kuga's own blood. Kuga wonders aloud if his O-type blood is the reason behind her peculiar fixation. He recalls a piece of trivia about insects being drawn to O-type blood, though he is clearly confused. He is actually conflating the facts, mistakenly applying mosquito behavior to his own situation. Kuga turns the conversation back to their mission, asking Alicia who she intends to target next. She replies with a cryptic, knowing smirk. With a bright, confident smile, Alicia declares that she has already made her final choice. As the sun sets over their base, a new, dangerous path forward is set, but who will be their first victim? The Japanese dungeon is divided into distinct sections, specifically reaching down to underground floor 32. Upper layers stretch from the earth up toward the sky, forming the dungeon's first half. Conversely, the lower layers extend deep into the earth, heading straight toward the underground. Despite their different positions, the difficulty level of the upper and lower layers remains identical. For instance, the 15th upper floor and the 15th lower floor present roughly the same challenge. Because of this strange symmetry, the Japanese dungeon earned the nickname of the double-headed dungeon. Size also scales with location, as generally, the higher the floor, the larger it becomes. Every 10th floor is a safe zone where no monsters appear, allowing people to establish camps. Floors like the 10th and 20th are particularly massive, housing cities within the dungeon's depths. These sprawling, hidden towns continue to thrive, but what secrets lie waiting in the floors below? Alicia reveals that her hidden sanctuary lies deep within the 43rd underground floor. However, she explains that the room has remained sealed during her long time away. She continues by noting that powerful S-rank bosses guard both the 45th upper and lower floors. The 49th floor serves an even more critical, unique purpose in the dungeon's design. This floor splits into 6 distinct sections, 3 above and 3 below, each housing a deadly guardian. 6 elite SS rank bosses command these sectors, each ruling over their own isolated territory. But when a boss falls to human hands, the hierarchy faces a grim, permanent disruption. With no system in place to replace them, the defeated boss's seat remains forever vacant. Kuga pauses to ask their destination, his footsteps echoing through the cold, stone corridor. They arrive at floor B32, a desolate expanse defined by rough, jagged rock stretching into the darkness. The viewers recognize the dungeon's layout, specifically calling out floor B32 as a known kobold territory. Alicia confirms their target with a bright smile, ready to begin the raid on the kobold colony. She outlines the plan to Kuga, intending to wipe out the colony and convert them into minions. Alicia remains excited, repeating that the goal is to eliminate the kobolds in one single strike. They stand in the corridor as Alicia finalizes the strategy to claim the colony as their own. A sudden realization hits Alicia, and she stops walking to address Kuga with a curious expression. She points out a lone human woman standing in the distance, seemingly unaware of their presence. Alicia turns to Kuga and asks if he intends to hunt the woman down as their next target. Kuga considers the situation carefully, noting that his decision depends entirely on who the opponent is. He explains that he avoids hunting anyone who shows no hostility toward monsters, leaving her fate uncertain. Alicia and Kuga observe the lone woman from afar, uncertain of her true intentions or hostility level. Alicia notes that encounters with explorers who lack hostility toward monsters are becoming increasingly rare. Kuga agrees, adding that it is equally rare to find monsters that do not harbor hatred toward humans. Kuga senses something is wrong, observing that the woman stands completely alone in the dangerous dungeon. He highlights another red flag, noting that she is not even utilizing a standard streaming drone. Kuga explains that while solo adventurers exist, they are extremely rare, even for those with immense talent. He warns that wandering alone is never recommended, pointing to Yulia's recent struggle as a clear example. Alicia observes that the woman appears remarkably distracted, acting as if she has no clear goal. The mysterious girl looks down at her equipment, seemingly lost and unsure of her next move. Without hesitation, she enters a command to disable her auto-revive function, leaving her fate hanging in the balance. Kuga and Alicia watch the girl in confusion, deeply unsettled by her strange and reckless behavior. Kuga observes her detachment and concludes that the woman is likely attempting to end her own life. Alicia realizes that if the girl can toggle her revival settings, she must be a rare reviver class. Kuga insists they proceed with extreme caution, as they cannot afford to let such a valuable asset die right before them. The reviver is revealed as the only job capable of utilizing life-saving auto-revive magic. Kuga and Alicia observe in silence as the woman deliberately disables her own revive spell. Kuga notes that only a reviver possesses the unique ability to toggle their own safety magic. Standard dungeon procedure requires explorers to pass through a formal checkpoint before entering. Before entry, adventurers must pay a hefty fee to insurance companies to secure their revival. These companies employ professional revivers to cast the essential protection spells on their clients. This setup guarantees automatic resurrection upon death, allowing explorers to delve without risk. The checkpoint verifies the presence of this active spell before allowing any travel inside. Because only a reviver can disable their own spell, the woman's actions are highly irregular. Such a rare class usually works exclusively for insurance firms, making her presence here truly bizarre. The mysterious girl acknowledges the detailed explanation, seemingly unfazed by the dire situation unfolding. Alicia turns to Kuga, insisting they must act immediately to secure the girl for themselves. Alicia eyes the woman with predatory intent, deciding that such a rare class belongs under her control. The girl suddenly bolts, prompting a panicked reaction from the nearby adventurer as Kuga watches in confusion. The online spectators marvel at the vampire's ruthless decision-making and her sudden, decisive actions. The audience warns others not to underestimate these vulnerable targets, noting that opportunity strikes quickly in the dungeon. The girl scurries away in a panic, while Alicia moves to intercept her with a predatory stride. Alicia reaches out a hand, commanding the girl to stop as she closes the distance between them. Without warning, dark tendrils erupt from the ground, ensnaring the girl and hoisting her into the air. Alicia barely avoids the stray magic, while Kuga shouts in alarm as the situation spirals out of control. The vampire eyes her prey with a hungry, predatory gaze, eager to hunt the girl down. Kuga watches in confusion as the girl panics, wondering if he is dealing with a wild beast. The online audience questions the sudden decision to end the broadcast, flooding the chat with confusion. The stream cuts to black as the connection is abruptly severed by the host. The captive girl screams in terror, begging to be finished off by the blade held against her. The girl pleads for a quick death, her composure shattered by the overwhelming threat before her. The vampire scoffs at the request, unimpressed by the girl's desperate desire to die. She questions why the girl is in such a rush to meet her end, showing zero interest. With a chilling smile, the vampire suggests she indulge in some pleasure before her inevitable demise. The girl is left trembling and completely stunned, unable to comprehend the dark proposition. The vampire catches the captive girl off guard, casually asking if she has any love for dogs. Trembling and visibly shaken, the girl lowers her guard, admitting that she is actually quite fond of them. Alicia smiles at the answer, satisfied by the confession. She firmly grabs the girl's hand and prepares to drag her away. Alicia declares they are heading straight to dog paradise, leaving the stunned girl and a bewildered Kuga behind in her wake. The stream connection flickers back to life as the girl introduces herself as Kushina to the group. Alicia turns her attention toward the girl, bluntly questioning if she has any idea who they are. Kushina remains visibly confused, admitting she has no clue who they are or why she is here. Kushina wonders if they are famous streamers, but the pair remains unimpressed by her speculation. Alicia dismisses the girl's ignorance, telling her it does not matter if she recognizes them or not. The chat floods the screen with confirmation of their fame, though Alicia remains indifferent to her own status. Alicia laughs off the idea of her own popularity, while the viewers insist that she is the hottest topic right now. Kushina stands in a daze, completely unaware that she cannot hear the voices of the digital audience. Alicia brushes past the conversation, telling the group it is time to head toward the dog's paradise. Kushina freezes in place, terrified by the sudden and cryptic mention of a destination she does not recognize. Alicia tells Kuga and the others to just wait and see, promising they will understand soon. The group reaches the first property, where several dogs wait near the dark cave entrance. Alicia surveys the surroundings, noting that this location feels a bit questionable to her. They move on to the second property, which sits amidst ruins, guarded by 2 more dogs. A third property appears, featuring a grand castle backdrop behind 2 more waiting dogs. Alicia examines the scenery, but she ultimately decides that it is almost, but not quite right. They arrive at the fourth property, where 2 dogs stand guard in front of a temple. Alicia looks around the area and asks the group if they think this place looks good. She turns to Kuga, asking for his opinion and suggesting that the location has a nice vibe. Kuga agrees that the area feels quite calming, while Alicia remains deep in thought. Alicia decides to commit to the current location, urging the group to move forward. Kushina pauses, confused by the strange surroundings and the strange creatures they have encountered. She gazes at the settlement in awe, wondering if they have stumbled upon a hidden kobold colony. The party notices the local inhabitants, realizing these creatures are armed and standing guard. Alicia remains unfazed by the potential danger, brushing off the concerns with a dismissive attitude. The group finally realizes the true nature of the destination, identifying the spot as the legendary dog paradise. Alicia smiles brightly, confirming their arrival and promising that they can finally play with the local kobolds. A stoic kobold guard stands firm, brandishing its spear as it lets out a sharp, warning bark. They approach the grand mansion entrance, where the armored kobold sentries watch their every move. As the party explores further, they observe that the physical appearance of the kobolds shifts to match each unique colony. The group questions the reasoning behind Alicia's choice of a Japanese-style settlement. The local kobolds possess a striking resemblance to Shiba Inu dogs. The sheer fluffiness of their cheeks is nearly overwhelming to behold. Kushina is instantly enchanted by their appearance, unable to hide her delight. Even Kushina, previously unsatisfied with the journey, cannot hold back her excitement. A Shiba Inu lets out a sharp bark, demanding attention from the party. Kushina reaches out, desperate to pet the adorable creatures, while a kobold lunges forward. The situation turns volatile as a kobold suddenly strikes at Kuga. Kuga expresses his confusion at the sudden aggression, while a set of razor-sharp teeth snaps shut. As the others warn that these cute creatures are actually fierce, Kuga faces an immediate, lethal threat. Alicia reveals that stroking a kobold's throat is the secret to calming them down immediately. Before the group can react, Alicia warns that the throat is also the kobold's greatest weak spot. Kushina apologizes as the party stands caught between caution and curiosity at the mansion's entrance. The party hesitates, but Alicia insists they move forward, ready to engage with the local inhabitants. Blood drips as Kuga suffers a sudden, vicious bite, his expression shifting from confusion to shock. Kuga attempts to dismiss the injury, claiming he is fine and telling the others not to worry. Kushina snaps back instantly, refusing to accept his dismissive attitude while the wound remains untreated. Kushina reaches out with urgency, determined to provide medical assistance before Kuga's condition worsens further. A glowing magical seal appears as Kushina chants a healing spell, closing the jagged wound on Kuga's arm. As his arm knits back together, Kuga notes with surprise that her magic feels warmer than his own. Kushina expresses surprise, admitting that this is her very first time casting a healing spell. She explains to Kuga that she usually relies on her auto-revival ability to handle injuries. Kushina smiles, assuring Kuga that he is fully healed, while he looks on with quiet understanding. Kuga thanks her for the assistance, and Kushina humbly insists that she should be the one expressing gratitude. The two share a brief, silent moment of connection as the tension from the earlier attack fades. Kushina blushes, nervously asking Kuga if they should move forward and checking if he is truly okay. Kuga gives a reassuring nod, confirming that he is fine and ready to continue their journey. Alicia calls out from ahead, impatient and demanding to know why the pair has not entered yet. Alicia complains that they are far too slow, prompting the duo to finally catch up to her. Kuga and Kushina are stunned to find that Alicia has already successfully tamed every single kobold in the area. Kuga and Kushina stand frozen, stunned by the sheer speed of the vampire's actions. Online viewers flood the chat, complaining that the vampire is moving far too fast for them to follow. Kuga apologizes for the delay, while the audience laments that their exciting stream has devolved into a simple healing session. They stand before the silent, imposing silhouette of the mansion, preparing to step into the unknown. Kushina beams as she pets a friendly kobold, while the others look on in disbelief at her sudden success. Kuga pauses the stream, turning to Kushina with a serious expression and a burning question on his mind. Kuga asks why she would ever choose to undo her own revival ability, seeking to understand her true motives. Kushina turns her back to him, cryptically claiming that her rare status as a healer is exactly the reason why, leaving Kuga to wonder what dark secret she is hiding. Kushina walks ahead, questioning why she ever chose such a stable and safe path for herself. Kuga watches her back, his expression filled with silent confusion as he contemplates her strange internal monologue. Kushina explains that she joined the insurance program for its safety, hoping for a life without constant pressure or overtime. She admits the bonuses were a nice perk, but the reality of her profession has become far more demanding than she anticipated. Kushina reveals that her desire for stability backfired, leading to a grueling cycle of repeated revivals day after day. She recounts how the cycle continued yesterday, forcing her to endure endless trauma just to keep moving forward. Despite taking a break today, she knows the cycle of revival will likely demand her return to the grind tomorrow. Kushina laments that her existence has been reduced to nothing but constant revival, leaving Kuga stunned by the weight of her words. She acknowledges that living for someone else is a noble cause, but confesses that the constant burden has become truly exhausting. Kushina suddenly catches herself, panicking as she clarifies that she never intended to end her own life. Kushina fumbles with her uniform, admitting she was just in a strange, restless mood. She confesses to Kuga that she felt a desperate, nagging craving for some kind of thrill. Kuga stares back, quietly acknowledging that he understands the weight of her restless desire. Automatic resurrection magic fundamentally changed the world, removing the finality of death for adventurers. Dungeon risks plummeted as people began entering dangerous ruins without any fear of permanent loss. Dungeon exploration soon transformed into a mainstream form of entertainment, broadcast for the masses to consume. Kushina notes that this safety comes at a price, suggesting that the resurrectionist profession carries a heavy curse. While the pay is lucrative and some find the work rewarding, others struggle to find true meaning in the grind. A mysterious figure appears before them, cutting through the silence to declare that not everyone finds fulfillment here. The stranger locks eyes with a stunned Kushina and makes a sudden, life-altering offer to become her master. Kushina is left completely baffled by the stranger's sudden proposal, stammering as she struggles to process the term minion. The mysterious figure remains unfazed, dropping the bombshell that Kushina perhaps does not fully grasp the reality of her own existence. With a calm, unsettling smile, the stranger bluntly labels Alicia a monster, leaving the group in stunned silence. Kushina's eyes widen in absolute horror as the realization of what is being suggested begins to sink in. Kuga tries to interject, but his confusion only deepens as he attempts to reconcile the stranger's words with reality. Kuga clarifies his human status, then turns the question back to the stranger to reveal their true nature. The weight of the offer hits Kushina hard, causing her to lose her train of thought as she stares blankly ahead. Overwhelmed and trembling, Kushina firmly rejects the life-altering proposal, unable to accept such a dark path. Kuga and the others look on in sheer bewilderment, desperate to understand why she would turn down such an offer. Kushina struggles to articulate her fear, arguing that becoming a monster's minion is a line she simply cannot cross. Kushina tries to deflect the life-altering offer, claiming her mother would never forgive such a choice. But as the weight of her refusal hangs in the air, the stranger's true intentions remain shrouded in a silence that could change everything. The mysterious figure processes the unfolding drama, her expression unreadable as she contemplates the group's reaction. Kuga keeps his true thoughts hidden, though he silently acknowledges the reckless nature of the situation. One of the girls expresses genuine disbelief that anyone would dare court such danger in this world. They agree that their companion is truly unique, though the weight of the situation remains heavy. The stranger pivots back to Kuga, clearly intending to make him the primary target of her unsettling proposal. The group stands in stunned silence as the stranger remains composed, waiting for the tension to break. The stranger hints that she is ready to shed her own reservations and step out of the shadows. The demon girl presses her offer, demanding to know why they will not simply serve as her minion. Kushina frantically refuses, claiming that her mother would never allow her to take such a dark path. The stranger accepts the rejection with a final, eerie smile, leaving the group to wonder what fate awaits them next. Alicia has successfully forced the kobolds to submit to her will as minions. However, Kushina proves to be a much more difficult target for her dark influence. With the kobolds cleared from the third floor, Alicia and Kuga return toward the town. They must always enter through the same location, forcing them to trek back every single time. Alicia magically produces fresh fruit out of thin air, offering them to her companion. Kuga reaches out, offering to pay for the snacks and settle their debt. Alicia dismisses the offer entirely, insisting that it is not a big deal at all. Kuga explains that his recent streaming sessions have been providing a steady stream of income. Alicia is momentarily confused by the terminology, until Kuga clarifies that it simply means money. The realization hits Alicia, leaving her completely stunned into silence by his bluntness. Kuga explains that his streaming platform operates on a simple scale: more eyes on his content means more profit. He tells Alicia that his success is largely due to her presence, as she draws in the audience he needs. Alicia looks on with wide eyes as Kuga offers to use his earnings to cover their current expenses. Alicia hesitates, her face flushing as she awkwardly accepts his help. Kuga presses her on her financial situation, specifically asking if she has any way to access digital currency. He explains that without cash, she would be forced to travel to a human town just to make a withdrawal. Alicia is confused by the modern terms, struggling to understand how one would even withdraw funds in this world. She sighs in frustration, admitting that she has no idea how to retrieve money from these strange systems. Kuga maintains a blank expression, pretending his questions are born from simple curiosity rather than concern. He pivots back to the topic of his daily income, demanding a full explanation of how his earnings are generated. Kuga holds up a single banknote, demonstrating exactly how he manages his daily finances. He reveals his secret, explaining that 5 of these bills simply appear in his pocket every single day. Alicia stares in disbelief, trying to process how money could possibly manifest out of thin air. Kuga does the math out loud, confirming that this daily windfall totals 5,000 yen. He notes that they will eventually need to visit a human town to properly manage these funds. The shopkeeper interrupts their private discussion, politely offering his services to the duo. Kuga immediately offers to pay for their goods, but the shopkeeper stops him, clarifying that he misunderstood the situation. The shopkeeper explains that he accepts digital payment, shocking both Kuga and Alicia with the unexpected revelation. Kuga and Alicia freeze in absolute silence, realizing that the modern world has somehow followed them here. Alicia stares in disbelief as Kuga demonstrates his mysterious ability to manifest digital payments out of thin air. She marvels at the process, comparing his strange modern technology to actual magic. Kuga watches her reaction with a deadpan expression, wondering if his cover is starting to slip. He explains that his body burns energy at an accelerated rate, forcing him to consume extra iron to survive. Alicia freezes, completely confused by his strange nutritional requirements. She hesitates, trying to process his odd behavior, but ultimately decides to just go along with it. The table is covered in a massive amount of food, clearly meant to satisfy Kuga's unusual hunger. Alicia watches him eat, utterly stunned by the sheer volume of food he is consuming. Changing the subject, Alicia asks Kuga what he was discussing with the local kobolds earlier. Kuga reveals he gave them a special ring so they could reach out whenever they need his aid. Alicia contemplates the nature of their bond, wondering if Kuga's connection to the kobolds functions like a summoning ritual. Kuga confirms her suspicion, explaining that the ring allows the kobolds to call upon his aid whenever they need him. Alicia is momentarily stunned by the implications of his ability to be summoned at a moment's notice. Kuga observes her reaction and cheekily wonders if she is the one actually falling under the kobold's influence. Alicia remains silent, her expression unreadable as she processes the strange dynamic unfolding between them. Alicia snaps back, indignantly rejecting the idea that she was swayed by their cuteness or became their minion. Kuga pauses, momentarily confused by her intense reaction, and realizes he may have misinterpreted her earlier behavior. Alicia admits that while the kobold's fluffiness is indeed supreme, it was not the sole reason for her actions. She insists there is more to the story as they continue walking, leaving Kuga to follow her lead. She points to the ring, hinting that the true power behind their connection remains a mystery waiting to be unraveled. The magic circle activates, and Kuga realizes the ring's power extends to summoning the kobolds themselves. A hulking kobold suddenly appears, kneeling before them and letting out a sharp, obedient bark. Alicia flushes with embarrassment, quickly apologizing for the sudden disruption while admitting she only wanted to test the summoning. The trio stands in silence, with the summoned creature offering only a simple, confused bark in response. Kuga observes the creature, noting that while they lack speech, they clearly comprehend his commands. Alicia explains that this particular kobold is actually the boss of the colony. When asked for his name, Alicia falters, clearly struggling to recall or invent a title for the beast. She eventually settles on the name Kobold, though the silence that follows leaves the creature looking unimpressed. Kuga stares at her, his expression filled with suspicion as he wonders if she just invented that name. Alicia dismisses the creature, telling him his testing is done and he is free to return home. The hulking kobold offers a final, sharp bark before vanishing back through the glowing summoning circle. As the portal fades into nothingness, Kuga and Alicia continue their steady trek through the ruins. Kuga reflects on the encounter, noting that the ability to summon such reinforcements is undeniably useful. Alicia confirms his observation but adds that a cooldown period prevents her from summoning them back to back. Kuga nods in understanding, realizing that their power is limited and cannot be exploited without end. Alicia agrees with a smirk, hinting that their strength serves a far more significant purpose than simple combat. She insists that the kobolds possess another vital role that they have yet to fully reveal. Kuga observes her expression, noting that Alicia seems unusually pleased with herself as she keeps her secrets. He senses that a deeper game is at play, but the true nature of their task remains hidden in the shadows. The pair retreats to the sanctuary of Alicia's temporary home. Alicia bounces over to Kuga, eager to break the silence with a casual greeting. She probes Kuga about the commonality of streaming, wondering if others engage in the practice as well. Kuga confirms it is standard practice, not realizing the direction of her curiosity. Alicia flushes, admitting she has grown curious about the streams hosted by other people. Alicia asks if they can watch these broadcasts together, leaving Kuga momentarily stunned. Alicia insists on watching immediately, and Kuga agrees to indulge her request. They settle in to browse the platform, and Alicia reaches out to initiate the search. They stumble upon a live feed from the Kumazimi channel, currently showing a group trekking through the wilds. As the footage plays, they both freeze, realizing the faces on the screen are all too familiar. Alicia stares at the screen in disbelief, her eyes widening as she recognizes the figures. She points at the display and asks Kuga if that is the party that betrayed him. Kuga confirms the identity of his former comrades with a heavy, troubled expression. For the first time since their parting, Kuga finds himself watching the Kumazimi group's feed. He observes their progress, noting a significant change in their composition and their demeanor. A new member has joined their ranks, moving with a strange, unnatural grace. Kuga watches the screen, his confusion mounting as he tries to process what he sees. Alicia questions whether these are truly his former teammates, noting their odd behavior. Kuga stares blankly at the screen, struggling to reconcile their current state with his memories. Alicia leans in closer, observing that the party members appear completely hollow and lifeless. The feed confirms Alicia's suspicion, showing Kuga's former comrades moving in an eerie, mechanical unison. A sudden, violent blur of motion erupts as a skeletal warrior strikes with unnatural precision. The skeleton heaves its heavy blade, its hollow sockets fixed on a target that lacks any will to survive. Sarah, the group's sword saint, reacts with a sharp hiss of frustration as the battlefield shifts against them. The party is forced onto the defensive, their movements jagged and disconnected as they struggle to maintain formation. Sarah lunges into the fray, but the mechanical nature of her former allies makes every engagement a desperate struggle. The screen reveals the source of the onslaught, a pair of formidable A-rank twin skeletons dominating the terrain. Yulia expresses her deep irritation, snapping at Shaun while she prepares to hold the front line alone. Shaun coldly shuts her down, declaring her aggressive strategy a fatal mistake in the face of this threat. Shaun reminds the group that the healer is their most vital asset, yet his tone suggests he is willing to sacrifice everything. A massive blade cleaves through the air, striking deep and drawing a cry of agony from the front line. Panic flares as the healer realizes the severity of the wound. He desperately casts a recovery spell, though he admits the situation is dire. Observers watching the feed are stunned by Shaun's performance. They praise his connection to the legendary Lujin party, noting his restoration speed is beyond comprehension. But as the healing light fades, a dark, pulsing shadow emerges from the wound, suggesting the damage was never meant to be mended. The feed displays a restless observer, unimpressed by the slow pace of the ongoing combat. The Holy Knight surges forward, clashing with the relentless, undead forces on the front line. A powerful strike connects, scattering debris and forcing the defensive line to scramble back. The skeleton readies another heavy blow, its movements devoid of hesitation or mercy. The healer remains composed, insisting that the situation is still under control despite the danger. Yulia calls out in alarm as the tide of battle turns against their exposed position. Alicia acknowledges the situation, turning to address the enchantment mage, Mikari, for assistance. The team moves quickly across the barren terrain, desperate to regroup and stabilize their defenses. The healer warns that their enchantments are fading, urging his allies to refresh them immediately. Mikari prepares to prioritize Sarah, but the healer coldly dismisses her plan as a foolish mistake. The party remains under the gaze of the public, their internal divisions laid bare for all to see. Viewers note Shaun's unwavering composure, while others mock the party's lack of a coherent strategy. Shaun attempts to calm the bickering, asking his allies not to belittle one another while they are being watched. He insists that as long as they focus on steady growth, the team will eventually be alright. The online feed erupts into a heated debate, with spectators questioning Shaun's leadership and the party's competence. Tensions boil over as the party members exchange sharp glares, the weight of the criticism finally getting to them. Watching the broadcast, the observer notes that the Saintess seems significantly weaker than when they last fought. Kuga and his companion watch the feed, surprised by the unexpected revelation about the Saintess's current state. Intrigued by the broadcast, his companion wonders aloud if they can leave their own comments on the stream. Koga confirms it is allowed, opening a new channel for their interference in the ongoing drama. Driven by a sudden impulse, she expresses her desperate need to cheer for the party in the live comments. Koga watches on, genuinely confused as to why she is so eager to participate in the stream's chaos. Koga explains the options, noting she can send voice messages or simply type out a text comment for the feed. She immediately chooses to type her message, reaching out to tap the interface with a look of determination. A new comment appears on the public feed, prominently displaying the sender's name for everyone to see. Koga realizes his catastrophic mistake as the name posted is his own, effectively outing his presence to the world. The horror sets in completely as he stares at the screen, paralyzed by the realization of what he has done. Across the continent, the party members freeze in confusion as his name flashes before them. The secret is out, and the consequences are only just beginning. Mino lets out a relieved sigh, finally feeling safe enough to return to the comfort of home. She explains to her companions that she has felt a dark presence stalking her for several days. The fear became so overwhelming today that she had to flee into the most crowded streets. Chown questions why she didn't just use her massive axe to deal with the threat directly. Viewers of the broadcast sympathize with Mino, calling the stalker a coward and demanding justice for the harassment. The group eventually arrives back at Mino's house, finding safety behind their own walls. Mino's residence is a familiar sight, standing 3 times larger than Alicia's temporary living quarters. Safe at last, Mino expresses her relief at having escaped the danger so quickly. She realizes with a start that she neglected her plants, immediately picking up her watering can to tend to them. Mino carefully waters the garden, knowing that missing even a single day of care would cause her precious vegetables to wilt. Viewers are in an uproar, questioning why anyone would ever make the sweet Mino-chan an S-rank boss. They insist there is no way they could ever bring themselves to defeat such a charming and gentle girl. The chat is filled with declarations of support, with everyone promising to root for her no matter what happens. Mino watches the screen, touched by the viewers' overwhelming kindness and genuine concern for her well-being. She beams at the camera, telling them that they are finally starting to understand her point of view. Suddenly, a dark, oppressive aura flares up nearby, and the entire group stops in their tracks, sensing an immediate threat. Mino trembles, struggling to speak as she notes that this presence is far more powerful than anything they have encountered. Koga suggests they search outside the garden first, hoping to pinpoint the source of the overwhelming power before it strikes. They dash toward the perimeter, with Koga urging a terrified Mino to stick close to them for safety. They stop dead in their tracks as a massive, monstrous werewolf emerges, confirming the viewers' worst fears about the new S-rank boss. The list of S-rank bosses is revealed, and the werewolf is identified as a major new threat. Mino stands her ground, boldly challenging the towering werewolf to explain his sudden appearance. Mino demands to know exactly what the beast wants from her. The werewolf claims he was merely keeping watch over the Minotaur to ensure her safety. Mino looks up, clearly skeptical of the monster's sudden display of concern. The werewolf drops his facade, declaring that only he is worthy of protecting her, and his true, dark intentions begin to surface. Mino cowers in terror as the towering werewolf looms over her, his presence suffocating the garden. The werewolf dismisses her fear with a chilling smile, insisting she is just being shy and that her reluctance is what makes her so adorable. The chat explodes in panic, with viewers warning Mino that this stalker is dangerous and she needs to flee immediately. Mino trembles, caught in the beast's dark gaze, desperately trying to understand why he is fixated on her. The werewolf questions why she would ever want to associate with humans, his voice dripping with condescension. He warns that mingling with humans will ruin her status as an S-rank boss and strip away her pure beauty. Mino stands paralyzed, struggling to find her voice. Mino finally snaps, fiercely demanding that the monster stop speaking ill of her friends. Koga and the others look on in concern, their eyes fixed on Mino as she confronts the encroaching shadow. The werewolf closes his eyes, offering a sickeningly sweet reassurance that everything will be fine for her. His true, twisted nature begins to fully emerge, and the atmosphere turns deadly as he steps closer to his prey. The werewolf insists that Mino is too gentle and claims her allies must have brainwashed her. He drones on about their first meeting at a flower shop, calling her pure and radiant while the viewers suffer through his rant. The group is forced to listen to the stalker's unsolicited life story about his obsession with Mino. Finally, after his endless rambling, the creature decides he has spoken enough for the moment. He tells them he is backing off for today but makes it clear that he and Mino will meet again. Mino snaps back at the monster, telling him that he is the only one who needs to disappear. The chat agrees with Mino's blunt assessment, mocking the werewolf's behavior as his presence begins to fade. The werewolf stands in the center of a glowing magic circle, preparing to vanish from their sight. Mino turns toward Koga with a serious expression, clearly contemplating their next move. She looks at Koga and declares that she has reached a final decision, leaving everyone waiting for her next move. Mino drops a bombshell on the group, declaring that they are going to make the arrogant werewolf her personal minion. Kuga is visibly horrified by the suggestion, his internal monologue screaming in protest at the absurdity of the plan. He desperately hopes to avoid this fate, but Mino's resolve is set, leaving his future hanging in the balance. The viewers are impressed by the vampire lady's sudden, aggressive initiative as she charges toward the castle. Kuga trails close behind, wondering how they could possibly pull off an ambush on the werewolf today. The reality of challenging an S-rank boss for the first time starts to sink in for the group. Kuga is visibly sweating, questioning whether their current strength is enough to survive the coming confrontation. The vampire lady reports that the area is clear of guards and signals for them to advance. They reach the massive doors, and the vampire lady reaches out to push them open and initiate the fight. The doors swing wide to reveal a group of shocked beasts, completely caught off guard by the sudden intruders. The monsters scramble, shouting in confusion as they demand to know who has dared to enter their domain. The vampire lady stands her ground against the startled crowd, identifying herself and declaring her intent to claim their boss. The beasts erupt into a panic, branding her a traitor and screaming for their allies to protect the boss. The beasts are caught in a whirlwind of sudden violence as their domain is breached. Mino stands firm as the monsters erupt into panicked screams, calling for protection against the intruder. Mino assesses the situation with a cold gaze, acknowledging the power level she is currently up against. Noticing their numbers, she prepares to shift tactics to ensure she maintains total control over the encounter. She raises her hand and activates a complex magic circle, channeling her intent into a binding spell. The onlookers watch in disbelief as the magic manifests, wondering what fate awaits the trapped targets. As the light fades, the beasts find themselves overwhelmed by a transformation that defies their understanding, leaving their survival hanging by a thread. The Shiba squad arrives on the battlefield, leaving the surrounding monsters bewildered and confused by their sudden appearance. Confused onlookers whisper among themselves, wondering if this bizarre group is the result of some strange new summoning magic. Mino taps her finger to cast a potent buff, assuring her ally that she will provide the necessary support to secure victory. A brilliant surge of energy envelopes the Shiba warrior, marking the activation of Mino's powerful enhancement spell. Kuga watches in total disbelief, struck by the sheer intensity of the magical power radiating from the buffed warrior. The Shiba warrior speaks with a deep, refined voice, claiming that serving under his lord is the greatest honor of his life. Kuga stammers in pure shock, completely caught off guard by the unexpected, resonant tone of the beast's voice. Kuga descends into a spiral of internal panic, struggling to process the surreal spectacle unfolding before his very eyes. Mino maintains her focus, urging the Shiba warrior to proceed as she places her full trust in his combat capabilities. The warrior agrees to the order but pauses, indicating there is one final, critical detail that needs to be addressed. The warrior declares his new identity to the group, introducing himself simply as Wano. Mino stammers in confusion, trying to process the strange turn of events as the warrior pauses. Wano rallies his Shiba subordinates, urging them to fight with everything they have for their master. The pack of Shiba warriors erupts in a collective, enthusiastic cheer, ready to follow their leader into battle. The onlookers erupt with excitement, marveling at the sheer display of power from the extraordinary Shiba squad. Kuga and Mino exchange quick words, deciding to leave the cleanup to Wano so they can advance further. Kuga and Mino sprint up the grand staircase, leaving the chaos of the battlefield behind them. They reach the top to find a mysterious figure waiting for them in the shadows of the room. The woman smiles, greeting them with a familiar, chilling recognition as she steps into the light. The dark figure rises to meet them, laughing as he reveals they have walked straight into a trap. The beast seethes with rage, declaring he will finally eliminate the intruder for stealing his minotaur prize. Kuga and the others pause in confusion, each laying claim to the mysterious girl as their own property. A chained girl stirs in the shadows, her presence sparking immediate suspicion among the group of adventurers. They demand to know who the captive is, while the captor dismisses her as nothing more than a hobby. Disgusted, the party accuses him of hoarding captives just like he once did with the girl named Mino. The beast indignantly denies the accusation, insisting that this particular captive is special to him. Mino loses her patience with the bickering and orders Kuga to take the girl and leave immediately. Kuga agrees to the plan, leaving the werewolf to be dealt with while he secures the girl's safety. With a sudden, sharp crack, the chains binding the girl begin to shatter under the mounting pressure. Kuga moves to carry the girl to safety, but the shattering chains signal a far more dangerous awakening ahead. The standoff intensifies as both sides trade insults, ready to teach each other a painful lesson. Kuga and the girl dash through the corridor, putting distance between them and the immediate danger. Kuga pauses to check on the girl, asking if she is alright after their narrow escape. The girl confirms she is fine, though her appearance is disheveled and her clothes are in tatters. Kuga observes her youth and the deplorable state of her attire, feeling a pang of sympathy for her. He tells her to move quickly, urging her to follow him to safety as they navigate the hall. The girl offers a shaky confirmation as they prepare to flee the area entirely. Behind them, the werewolf lunges at the vampire, sparking a violent clash between the two powerful monsters. Onlookers watch the exchange with bated breath, cheering as they witness a rare monster versus monster battle unfold. The vampire smiles as the brutal collision continues, but the true threat may still be lurking in the shadows. The vampire girl lunges with terrifying speed, grabbing the werewolf and slamming him into the ground. She stands over him as the chains binding her shattered remains fall away, her eyes locked on his. The werewolf tries to strike back, but she easily deflects his claws with a flick of her hand. She grinds his face into the floor, leaving him helpless as she prepares to finish the fight. Onlookers are stunned by the display, questioning how she could possibly be overpowering an S-class boss. The crowd whispers that while she was always considered stronger than most bosses, this level of power is unprecedented. She stares coldly at the audience, unmoved by the chaos unfolding around her. The spectators erupt in cheers, hailing her as their true vampire queen. She turns her gaze back to the fallen werewolf, mocking him for his pathetic display of weakness. Even as the battle continues, the onlookers remain in disbelief at her absolute dominance over an S-class entity. The vampire questions if her opponent is truly an S-class boss, unimpressed by his display. The vampire scoffs at the very notion of being labeled an S-class boss. Her opponent can only laugh nervously in response. She grows annoyed, noting that the human companion he brought along is taking far too long to return. Kuga realizes he is in trouble again, feeling that his life is just one endless series of misfortunes. The girl calls out to Kuga, asking if he is familiar with the game called Werewolf. Kuga admits he has heard of the game, though he has never played it himself. He wonders why she suddenly sounds so confident. She smiles darkly, beginning to explain the cruel mechanics of the game. She describes how a werewolf hides among humans, only to slaughter the villagers under the cover of night. Kuga listens, remarking that he clearly lacked knowledge of all the rules. She calls out to him once more, and Kuga turns his attention back to her, sensing a shift in the air. The girl commands Kuga to listen closely, her voice cutting through the tension of the room. With a chilling smile, she confesses that she is the werewolf, leaving Kuga frozen in absolute shock as the truth of her identity finally comes to light. Alicia scans the room, her brow furrowed as she wonders where Kuga could have disappeared to. She launches herself forward in a blur of motion, determined to track him down immediately. The werewolf groans, confirming that he has successfully incapacitated the fake threat for the time being. Alicia arrives on the scene, her eyes widening as she spots Kuga standing amidst the chaos. She demands that Kuga pay attention, her voice sharp and urgent as the atmosphere in the room shifts. Alicia winces as she absorbs the sudden impact, struggling to maintain her composure in the wake of the collision. Kuga stares in relief, breathing a sigh of gratitude because his companion is still clinging to life. Alicia gasps, her voice trembling as she finally calls out Kuga's name with unmistakable urgency. Kuga looks back at her, his expression clouded with confusion as he asks what is wrong with her face. Alicia points a warning finger, desperately shouting that the girl standing before them is the true werewolf. Kuga casually brings up that the girl already admitted to her identity earlier, leaving everyone stunned. The viewers flood the chat with questions about whether she is truly the werewolf, while others debate her sudden charm. They bicker over who predicted the reveal first. The chat remains fixated on her appearance, with one viewer insisting they noticed her cuteness all along, prompting a quick retraction. The girl blushes deeply, recalling how Kuga once expressed his desire to make her one of his own kin. Kuga repeatedly insists he is innocent, waving his hands to clarify that it was Alicia who made that specific agreement. The girl is left completely bewildered, struggling to comprehend why Kuga would agree to such a bizarre arrangement. A sudden, frantic realization hits her, and she screams in absolute confusion as the pieces fail to connect. The audience continues to mock Kuga, wondering if he is somehow cursed to attract every monster girl he encounters. A new, ominous message appears in the chat, declaring that the traitor Kuga must be eliminated immediately. As the situation spirals into chaos, she demands to know exactly why this is happening, leaving the fate of their alliance hanging in the balance. The girl blushes uncontrollably, her heart softening as she recounts how Kuga once treated her with genuine kindness. She recalls the moment Kuga first rescued her, an act of compassion that clearly left a lasting impression on her. She fondly remembers his gentle words of encouragement, noting how he constantly checked on her well-being during their journey. Overwhelmed with emotion, she confesses that Kuga was the first person to ever speak to her with such tender care. The viewers mock Kuga's simple display of affection, questioning if that was really all it took to win her over. The chat turns chaotic as one viewer boldly demands to take Kuga's place by her side. Alicia trembles with visible rage and shock, struggling to process the bizarre turn of events unfolding before her eyes. The girl is visibly touched, admitting she has never received such genuine words from anyone before. Kuga casually asks if she has ever found herself in a similar situation twice, clearly missing the weight of her confession. She stands stunned, struggling to process Kuga's oblivious question while the silence hangs heavy between them. She stutters in agreement, her initial emotional vulnerability quickly replaced by a wave of confusion. The chat erupts, mocking the vampire's sudden silence and predicting that some of them will not survive the journey. She pauses, secretly wondering if she should act a bit weaker to better fit in with the group. The chat turns hostile, with viewers announcing they are unsubscribing and leaving the stream entirely. She snaps, shouting at the audience to stop making such reckless and hurtful claims about their situation. Her voice falters as she attempts to clarify her feelings, realizing she has completely failed to convey her true intentions. The chat continues its verbal assault, labeling Gri a parasite and demanding she be kicked from the party immediately. The vampire girl calls out to Kuga, clearly dissatisfied with the current state of their relationship. The stream chat erupts in confusion, struggling to comprehend the sudden reveal that the two are siblings. Viewers begin to point out the striking physical resemblance between the two characters. The chat quickly deduces that the werewolf girl is named Gri. The group stands in confusion while Gri continues to address Kuga as her big brother. Gri declares she has found her destiny and announces her intent to become Kuga's personal minion. Kuga and his companion stand frozen in total disbelief at the girl's sudden, bold proclamation. Kuga wonders if a previous head injury is causing him to hallucinate this entire bizarre conversation. Gri remains oblivious to the tension, clinging to Kuga with a content expression on her face. Kuga tries to stall the situation, but the girl's attachment to him has only just begun. Gri is completely stunned, demanding to know if Kuga has completely lost his mind. She grips his arm, whispering that she finds him incredibly kind despite the situation. With wide, infatuated eyes, she confesses that falling for him was love at first sight. The werewolf brother reacts in sheer disbelief, repeatedly questioning how she could fall in love that quickly. He desperately tries to talk sense into her, warning that this obsession is a recipe for disaster and that Kuga might be a dangerous person. The viewers mock the brother, pointing out that his own advice is ironic and questioning if Gri's feelings are even reciprocated. Gri ignores the criticism, reminiscing about their meeting at a flower shop while the chat notes the siblings share a terrifying stalker-like energy. She pulls him closer, declaring that she does not care if her love is one-sided. Gri then turns to her brother and coldly dismisses his opinion, leaving him completely breathless. Finally, she looks back to Kuga with wide, expectant eyes, asking if she can finally be considered his personal minion. Gri pauses to contemplate the situation, her expression shifting into a thoughtful, calculating gaze. She turns her attention toward the group, while the others watch her with intense, lingering suspicion. Gri makes her intentions clear, begging Kuga to finalize their contract and summon her frequently. She sighs, clearly lost in her own internal world while contemplating the next steps of her plan. Gri flips through her checklist for becoming a boss, noting that she has successfully acquired new minions. She justifies her logic, reasoning that if someone is a minion of her minion, they are effectively hers as well. Kuga and his companion share a quiet, awkward smile, seemingly resigned to the girl's chaotic energy. Kuga questions if they can really bypass the rules so easily, unaware of the massive consequences looming ahead. A surprise notification lights up the screen, signaling a brand new stream from Komazimi. Alicia watches with wide, sparkling eyes, desperate to see what the group is doing today. They waste no time and tune into the broadcast, curious about the former party members. The group wonders aloud what their old companion is up to, sparking a moment of genuine curiosity. Kuga pauses, momentarily lost in thought as he considers the unexpected question from his allies. The party navigates through a jagged, crystalline landscape, venturing deep into the dangerous, glowing cavern. A mage explains that today's journey is purely for mining resources, specifically to upgrade his magical staff. Because they are strictly gathering materials, the mage notes that he expects very little combat today. He admits that their previous streams suffered from poor coordination and needed significant improvement. The team reveals they have been training intensely together to ensure their movements are perfectly synced. Shaun encourages his party to relax as they advance through the cavern, noting their performance has significantly improved. The stream chat floods with messages, praising Shaun's skill while others express lingering doubts about their current situation. Shaun reveals a somber truth, admitting he was the lone survivor of a disastrous boss fight with his previous party. Viewers comment on the tragedy, lamenting the loss of his former allies and acknowledging that Shaun was far more skilled than the rest. Shaun pauses, visibly concerned by the persistent worry expressed by his audience regarding the capability of his new team. He defends both his past and present companions, asking his viewers to refrain from insulting them while he appreciates their support. The chat continues to shower Shaun with praise, calling him a saint for his loyalty and expressing confidence in his ability to reach S rank. Viewers reaffirm their unwavering support, promising to stick by Shaun regardless of the challenges he faces ahead. A sudden, sharp beep cuts through the air, prompting Shaun to acknowledge the gesture with a faint, appreciative smile. The group discovers a mysterious, web-like formation blocking their path, leaving Shaun confused as he investigates the strange obstruction. Shaun stands before a glowing, magical formation, questioning if the structure is truly made of spider silk. The silk lashes out instantly, catching Shaun off guard as he struggles to comprehend the sudden attack. The stream chat erupts in panic as viewers realize an emergency is unfolding, demanding answers about Shaun's safety. Shaun is forcibly pulled into the center of the web, vanishing from sight as his party watches in horror. His companion stares in disbelief, unable to process the terrifying sight of their leader being whisked away. She identifies the danger, realizing with dread that the cavern holds a web-based teleportation snare. A violent flash of light marks the spot where Shaun stood, leaving his party alone and desperate for answers. She confirms the grim reality, telling the others that Shaun has been captured by a warp trap. Her teammates exchange terrified glances, realizing the presence of a teleport trap implies a far deadlier predator. The realization hits them like a physical blow, they are being hunted by the lethal arachne. The party realizes the true, lethal identity of the creature hunting them, the S-rank arachne. Anyone ensnared by the teleportation trap is warped directly into the monster's nest. Countless adventurers have already met their end in that web-filled graveyard. Shaun's companions watch in despair, realizing he has almost certainly been sent to the same nest. Will they manage to reach him before the arachne finishes its meal? The stream chat is in an uproar, demanding the party rush to save Shaun immediately. Shaun sighs in frustration, steeling his resolve before signaling his party to move forward. The party stands before a shimmering magical portal, the gateway to an unknown danger. They step into the light, their hands gripped tight as the teleportation magic takes hold. The party arrives on the 45th floor, trapped within the horrifying lair of the S-rank arachne. Looking around, the group realizes with dawning dread that they have walked directly into the monster's nest. Shaun observes the blocked exit, confirming that their primary path out has been completely sealed off. Thick, impenetrable webs now cover the doorway, leaving the group with no choice but to push deeper inside. A chilling voice echoes through the cavern, mocking the four adventurers for walking into a trap. The arachne looms above, gloating that today's hunt has brought her an unexpectedly large haul. The S-rank arachne looms over the party, her cruel smile signaling the start of a lethal hunt. The arachne gloats as she corners her prey, while the adventurers struggle to hold their ground against her overwhelming presence. Viewers watching the stream flood the chat with panic, terrified that this might be the final broadcast for the party. Commenters cheer for Shaun to lead the team to victory, urging him to prove his worth in this desperate situation. Shaun acknowledges the digital support, steadying his nerves before he commands his party to execute their strategy. The arachne descends upon the group, her massive form closing the distance in a blur of deadly motion. The arachne demands the party surrender, while the team desperately casts defensive spells to mitigate the incoming damage. Yuusha lunges forward, striking the creature with a powerful blow that lands true against the monstrous boss. The chat remains critical, noting that the strike lacked the necessary force to truly cripple their S-rank opponent. The arachne retaliates instantly, forcing the party into a defensive stance as the brutal skirmish intensifies. The arachne unleashes a barrage of razor-sharp webs, forcing Shaun to brace for a lethal impact. The projectiles whistle past him in a terrifying display of speed. Shaun freezes as the lethal webbing narrowly misses his head. Shaun cries out in pain as a stray strike finds its mark. With his defenses shattered and the party pushed to their absolute limits, the screen fades to black, leaving their survival hanging by a single thread. The party's healer acts quickly, casting his signature auto-heal spell to mitigate incoming damage. Viewers erupt in the chat, praising the high-tier defensive magic. They note that this skill will allow the party to endure minor strikes during the battle. Mika triggers her acceleration buff, pushing the party's speed to its absolute limit. The chat is filled with praise for Mika's timely support, though some argue over her tactical choices. Some viewers question why she didn't boost Sarah first, while others quickly silence the criticism. The arachne watches the display with a predatory grin, realizing exactly how the party functions. Her cold eyes lock onto the healer, recognizing him as the linchpin of their defense. The entire party freezes in realization as they sense the monster's shift in focus. The massive beast lunges, deciding that removing the healer is the most efficient path to victory. The healer is left completely exposed, and with the predator closing in, his fate hangs by a thread. The arachne taunts the party, claiming that human tactics crumble when faced with a thinking opponent. She reveals her true intent, declaring she no longer needs to hunt them one by one. The monster prepares a massive area of effect strike, intending to wipe the entire party out instantly. Panic ripples through the group as they realize the sheer scale of the incoming assault. The healer screams for Yuusha to intervene, desperately begging for cover as the attack descends. Yulia reacts in a blur of motion, rushing to intercept the lethal blow before it connects. Yulia successfully parries the massive strike, creating a protective barrier for her vulnerable teammate. The healer sighs in relief, offering his gratitude to Yulia for her quick and decisive intervention. A sudden, haunting realization hits the group as they call out Mikari's name in alarm. Mikari stands amidst the wreckage, confirming their safety while the party braces for the next onslaught. The Arachne looms over her prey, mocking the party's desperate attempt to escape her lethal trap. She tightens the silken threads around her victim, taunting them that true despair involves far more than just two people. The captive struggles in vain as the monster's webbing constricts, leaving her completely at the beast's mercy. As the Arachne prepares to strike, the party can only watch in horror, realizing this may be the end for their comrade. The captive hero struggles against the thick, suffocating webbing, lamenting that this situation has become a complete disaster. The party members argue over the tactical failure, noting that Yulia was never meant to hold the front line. The hero cries out that the situation is unbearable, fearing that the version of Yulia they once knew is gone forever. Internal bickering erupts as they debate whether Yulia should have prioritized her own safety or defended the vulnerable healer. With a guttural roar, the hero lunges forward, desperate to break through the monster's defenses. The hero delivers a powerful strike, slicing deep into the Arachne's grotesque form. But the celebration is cut short as the hero witnesses the monster's wounds sealing in an instant. The Arachne offers a chilling smile, mockingly asking if she has committed some grave mistake. Horror sets in as the party realizes the monster possesses regenerative powers, while the hero suffers from his own exertion. The monster prepares a final, crushing blow, and the party watches in terror as their hope begins to vanish. The party cries out in desperation, calling for Shaun as the situation spirals into chaos. Panic erupts as the members are ensnared, their shouts echoing through the chamber. Sarah and Mikari are pinned against the wall, trapped by the relentless, suffocating webs. The party demands that Sarah take immediate action and heal the wounded hero, but he hesitates. Sarah seethes with resentment, labeling his own teammates as idiots who are constantly holding him back. He turns his back on the slaughter, walking toward a distant light while his allies remain trapped. He stops in his tracks, stunned to find that the heavy vault door has mysteriously drifted open. The massive entrance was sealed from the inside, yet somehow, it now stands wide open. Sarah views this impossible opening as a divine miracle, a 1 in a million chance for his survival. He cold-bloodedly abandons his comrades to their fate, leaving the party to wonder if he is really just leaving them behind to die. Sarah spirals into a delusional frenzy, convinced of his own importance and refusing to accept the possibility of his own death. As Sarah steps through the threshold, a mysterious figure stands waiting in the shadows, blocking his path to salvation. A sharp, sudden impact resonates through the chamber, signaling an unexpected arrival. Sarah stands in the dim light, annoyed by the sudden disruption to his escape. The newcomer cries out in confusion, demanding to know why the vault door is being sealed shut. He is clearly rattled by the sudden turn of events. Sarah stares back, his expression cold as he realizes his departure is being challenged. The newcomer struggles to recall the moment he was suddenly transported here. Kuga stands ready for combat, his presence commanding the space. The two men exchange words of disbelief, as Kuga admits he never thought he would actually arrive. Kuga lunges forward, his blade carving through the air with lethal intent. The monster watches the new arrival with predatory curiosity. It questions the nature of this human, wondering how a party could possibly exceed the standard 4-member limit. Sarah reflects on the word salvation, his calm demeanor hiding a deeper, darker calculation. The truth of the situation is revealed as the power of the hero's skill is finally identified. It is a rare ability known as salvation. This skill allows for a forced swap, dragging a new member into the fray to maintain a 4-person party. The strategy is set, but will it be enough to survive the encounter? Kuga launches himself into the fray, his arrival signaling a desperate shift in the battle. Reflecting on the tactical nightmare, Kuga admits that swapping with the fallen Yulia or Mikari would have been the superior choice. Under the pressure of the moment, Kuga ultimately decided to swap out Shaun instead. Shaun finds himself abandoned and stranded outside the vault, left to process his sudden isolation. He desperately pleads for a chance to escape before the heavy vault door seals him inside forever. Kuga turns his attention toward his ally, calling out to Alicia with a sense of urgency. Kuga demands one final favor from the demon, his resolve hardened by the unfolding chaos. The demon watches Kuga with cold curiosity, questioning the true intent behind his frantic request. Kuga orders the demon to shield Shaun from the lethal stray shots fired by the encroaching Arachne. Though she expresses her deep distaste for the task, the demon ultimately agrees, leaving the fate of the party hanging in the balance. The party moves forward while a broadcast asks why the vampire isn't assisting them today. The vampire clarifies that she is unfortunately ineligible to participate in this current battle. Kuga realizes that the 4-member party limit applies to monsters as well, marking a new discovery. Kuga dismisses the healer's input, labeling his presence a nuisance even if he is just a nobody. The healer is stunned as he is called spineless, while Kuga remains focused on the mission. Kuga admits he could almost accept the healer looking down on them, but his patience has limits. Kuga pauses, his expression darkening as he prepares to address the healer's hypocrisy. Kuga scoffs that someone who tried to abandon them has no right to look down on him. The healer trembles, realizing Kuga is calling him out for the way he discarded Shaun. The healer stammers in denial as the realization of his own betrayal hits him hard. The healer refuses to believe Shaun would ever commit such a treacherous act of betrayal. Yet, the chat recalls a moment where Shaun experienced a mysterious blackout, fueling their suspicions. The healer remembers that similar unexplained behavior occurred right before his former party was wiped out. Viewers label his behavior a guilty charge, mocking him for being pathetic and disappointing. Kuga faces off against the encroaching Arachne, his blade ready for the brutal struggle ahead. The Arachne recoils in disbelief, stunned by the sheer intensity and skill Kuga displays in combat. Kuga lunges forward, his strike precise as he systematically dismantles the monster's defenses. The creature shrieks in agony as Kuga unleashes a flurry of attacks, leaving no room for escape. Kuga maintains his cold, focused expression, unaffected by the carnage unfolding before his eyes. With a final, decisive movement, Kuga severs the monster's limbs, ending the threat once and for all. The Arachne lets out a piercing shriek as she is forced back by the overwhelming pressure. Kuga stands ready with his blade, leaving the observers in the chat completely dumbfounded. The spectators struggle to comprehend how Kuga is single-handedly dominating an S-class monster in this duel. The team watches in awe, recalling his past battles and questioning if they ever truly understood his limits. The healer stares on, finally beginning to grasp the reality of the power he had once dismissed. The realization settles in that this is merely a glimpse of Kuga's true strength, but what happens when he fully unleashes it? A month ago, an ultimatum was delivered to Kuga, demanding he immediately leave Kumazimi. The surrounding party members react in sheer confusion and shock at the sudden, cold demand. It was common knowledge that the hero job description was limited, not a jack-of-all-trades role. However, Kuga defied every expectation, proving that he was fundamentally different from the others. He shattered the established limits of what a mere hero was supposed to achieve. Kuga excelled in every single field, mastering offense, defense, support, and even healing arts. He was never just a jack-of-all-trades, he was a true all-rounder in every sense. His raw combat potential was so immense that it rivaled an S-rank boss monster. The truth remains that Kuga was simply blessed with an overwhelming, natural-born talent. But if he possessed such terrifying power all along, what is the true endgame of his betrayal? Through years of relentless, quiet training, Kuga finally unlocked his hidden potential. But with no dedicated healer in Kumazimi, the party forced Kuga to shoulder both the tank and healing burdens. They admit now that his true power was squandered just to keep their group alive. They justify their past actions as a necessary step to break the chains they had placed upon him. The party members hesitate, questioning if there was ever a better way to handle the situation. One of them wonders aloud if they should have just been honest with him from the start. They realize that transparency would have changed nothing, as Kuga would have refused to leave regardless. They acknowledge that Kuga's self-worth was tragically low, blinding him to his own value. His sense of duty was simply too stubborn for him to ever walk away on his own. But as the truth of his sacrifice comes to light, does he even want to be saved? The party members watch in stunned silence, realizing just how much they underestimated Kuga's true potential. They admit that while he might not have defeated the vampire boss alone, he would have certainly made a name for himself. Driven by their own hidden agendas, they forced Kuga out of Kumazimi to face the lethal threat solo. They lurked in the shadows, constantly monitoring his live stream to gauge his performance. They stood ready to intervene and breach the hidden chamber the moment the battle turned against him. Inside the chamber, Kuga clashes with the beast, his movements precise and relentless. Kuga calls out a healing spell, his magic weaving through the air to sustain his fading strength. The creature recoils in agony, but as the light of the spell intensifies, Kuga suddenly collapses, leaving his fate hanging in the balance. The Arachne mocks Kuga, revealing that he is not the only one capable of healing during this battle. Viewers watching the stream are stunned, noting that Kuga's opponent possesses an overwhelming and rapid regenerative ability. Kuga realizes his strikes are futile against the monster's recovery, and his own strength is beginning to falter. The Arachne cruelly laughs, taunting Kuga as he slowly bleeds out from his wounds. Kuga stands his ground, but he is visibly reeling from the relentless onslaught of the beast. In a moment of desperation, Kuga calls out to Sarah, hoping to break the stalemate. Sarah appears, startled by the sudden plea coming from the front lines. Kuga urgently begs her to hold off the Arachne for just a few vital moments. He looks at her with eyes full of quiet, desperate resolve, pleading for her assistance. His hand grips his weapon tightly, but as the final second ticks away, his strength finally gives out. Sarah stares in disbelief, struggling to process the sudden, desperate request from her former comrade. Kuga launches himself at the monster with a guttural roar, his blade cutting through the air as the party watches in stunned silence. Kuga apologizes for his actions, leaving the party members confused and unsettled by his strange behavior. They struggle to comprehend his sudden change in demeanor. Kuga reveals that these lethal actions are merely the activation conditions for a new, mysterious trait he has acquired. He stares coldly at his companions, declaring that his choices are not personal, nor does he owe them any further allegiance. The party is left reeling as they realize the terrifying truth behind Kuga's cold calculations. Something dark is unfolding right before their eyes. The Arachne smiles cruelly, taunting Kuga as she prepares to reveal the grim purpose behind the vampire's protective behavior. The realization hits, the monster is not merely a combatant, but a necessary sacrifice for the ritual to truly begin. Kuga is suddenly ensnared by the monster's reach, his body pinned as he struggles to break free from the lethal grip. Kuga lets out a final, agonizing scream as the creature's power overwhelms him. Is this the end for our fallen hero? The Arachne wears a mocking smirk, dismissing the need for any remorse regarding Kuga's current suffering. She leans in with a cold, cruel grin and reminds him that his own monstrous nature made this fate inevitable. As the ritual tightens its grip, the line between hero and monster finally dissolves into darkness. Shaun watches in horror as the situation spirals out of control, unable to accept what is happening. Refusing to yield, Shaun clings to the desperate hope that he can still change the outcome. He reflects on his grueling journey to reach S rank, lamenting that all his hard work is being undone. Shaun demands to know if his efforts mean nothing, but Kuga offers only a cold, hollow apology. Kuga raises his blade, declaring that he has no time left to waste on sentimentality or regret. Shaun lets out a piercing, agonized scream as the reality of the impending betrayal finally takes hold. Kuga plunges his sword downward, striking Shaun without a hint of hesitation or mercy in his eyes. The party watches the brutal act in silence, struggling to process that Kuga actually went through with it. Desperate pleas echo through the air as the party cries out, begging Kuga to explain his twisted motives. The Arachne collapses as a massive, surging power erupts around Kuga, signaling the start of a dark transformation. The Arachne struggles, her movements hampered by the crushing weight of the unfolding ritual. Kuga strikes with precision, his blade cutting through the air as the Arachne recoils in disbelief. The Arachne stares, her eyes widening as she realizes the tide of the battle has shifted. Nearby, the party observes the unfolding chaos, unable to comprehend the sudden reversal of fortune. Confusion ripples through the group. They demand to know what is happening, but find no answers. The vampire offers a chilling, knowing laugh. She mocks their ignorance and prepares to reveal the truth. She leans in, her voice dripping with malice. She declares that Kuga is no longer the man they once knew. Trapped and desperate, the Arachne cries out, demanding to know what twisted fate has befallen Kuga. The vampire denies any personal interference, coldly dismissing the Arachne's pleas for an explanation. She shifts the focus to Kuga's transformation, claiming his new job as a fallen hero awakened the moment he first took a life. Kuga reveals that despite his transformation, the core of his new fallen hero job remains identical to the original. He notes with grim satisfaction that he has managed to retain the salvation trait throughout his dark evolution. Kuga explains that his offensive power has surged, but he has sacrificed his ability to heal or support anyone but himself. He clarifies that the true power of soul salvation lies in multiplying his strength by effectively erasing the souls he saves. Though the term salvation carries a noble weight, Kuga admits it is merely a convenient mask for total annihilation. Kuga coldly concludes that the more lives he extinguishes, the more unstoppable he becomes, leaving the party to face his wrath. Mikari and Kuga retreat into the distance as the party watches in stunned silence. A sudden realization hits Mikari, leaving her breathless and unable to process the situation. Sarah desperately tries to clarify the misunderstanding, but the tension remains thick and suffocating. The party stares in utter disbelief at the unfolding drama, their confusion deepening with every passing second. Mikari turns back, her expression hardening as she realizes something critical about the situation. Sarah asks why Mikari is acting so strangely, desperate to understand the sudden shift in her demeanor. Mikari snaps, ordering Sarah to be quiet as her suppressed emotions finally begin to boil over. Unable to contain her frustration any longer, Mikari declares she is finished watching everyone throw their lives away. Mikari decides to reveal everything, leaving the party terrified as they watch her uncharacteristic breakdown. The truth is laid bare before Kuga and his viewers, setting the stage for a final, irreversible confrontation. The quiet of the house is heavy with the weight of impending time. Alicia watches as Kuga lies in repose, his thoughts drifting far from their current reality. Alicia approaches, her presence breaking his concentration as she calls out his name. Startled by the sudden intrusion, Alicia stammers, her composure faltering under his direct gaze. She questions what is wrong, her voice laced with an uneasy apprehension about his sudden behavior. Kuga stares blankly, announcing his firm intention to confront Kumazimi once again tomorrow. Taken aback by the unexpected declaration, Alicia can only manage a weak and hesitant agreement. Kuga turns to her with a somber expression, requesting that she accompany him on this dangerous path. The request hangs in the air, leaving Alicia completely speechless and visibly shaken by the gravity of his words. Under the pale light of the moon, she finally concedes, setting their inevitable course for tomorrow night. The demoness watches with wide eyes, her expression shifting as she processes the turn of events. The next day arrives, finding the group standing together at the threshold of a daunting challenge. The party reaches the 43rd floor of the dungeon, positioning themselves near the entrance to the hidden boss room. An unexpected face emerges from the shadows, and as they lock eyes, the realization of a deadly trap begins to dawn on them. The party stands at the dungeon entrance as Kuga thanks them for their continued cooperation. Alicia struggles to find the right words, her composure faltering as she stares at Kuga. A sudden, unfamiliar sensation washes over Alicia. She questions her own internal reaction with genuine alarm. She struggles to process her own feelings, wondering if she is truly experiencing nervousness for the first time. Alicia tries to rationalize her feelings, insisting that Kuga's return to the party does not actually matter. Kuga breaks the heavy silence by asking if Alicia is currently searching for a new healer. Alicia and the rest of the party look on in total confusion, unable to grasp his sudden inquiry. Kuga clarifies that he lacks an elite like Shaun, but he has already identified a potential candidate. Alicia looks at him, trying to discern if his words imply a change in their plans. Kuga notices her expression and asks why she is smiling, leaving the future of their quest uncertain. Flustered and blushing, she insists she is not smiling at him, leaving the party confused. The atmosphere shifts as Kuga introduces a new candidate for their party's vacant healer position. Kuga reveals the candidate's name is Kushina, a skilled regenerator who is eager to join their ranks. The party reacts with surprise at the mention of a regenerator, questioning her unique capabilities. Kuga confirms her role and adds that she is also interested in pursuing a career in streaming. He explains that while she lacks field experience, she was an elite student and promises to improve quickly. Kuga stands firmly by his assessment, assuring the group that her healing skills are exceptional. Alicia listens intently, her expression unreadable as she processes this sudden change in their team composition. The group discusses how keeping the name Kushina preserves their current party identity, though the tension remains. Alicia abruptly demands Kushina's contact information, signaling her intent to vet the new member personally. Alicia freezes as a sudden notification flashes before her eyes. The unexpected message catches her completely off guard. The message informs the party that a dreaded Arachne has just been hunted down by the infamous evil slayer. Alicia stares in disbelief while the others struggle to comprehend the name mentioned in the report. Kuga keeps a watchful eye on the screen as the stream continues to broadcast its taunting message toward them. The voice on the other end mocks the hero, asking if he and his party are finally watching the broadcast. The streamer questions why the group feels so confident when they have yet to defeat a single S-rank boss. He insults the hero for chickening out, clearly looking to provoke a reaction from their small party. The screen shifts to show the brutal display of a fallen monster, serving as a grim warning to the viewers. The streamer asserts that monsters must be taught their place, using the defeated Arachne as a gruesome example. A dark grin spreads across the screen, making it clear that this provocation is only the beginning of their torment. Kuga recognizes the evil slayer as the notorious S-rank party, and the situation instantly turns dire. The threat hangs heavy as Kuga realizes their path forward has just become dangerously complicated. The party stands together, contemplating the future of their base as construction begins on the 43rd floor. Alicia outlines the rigid requirements to reach SS rank, noting that building a boss castle remains their primary objective. They seek a sanctuary where they can look up and see the sky, settling on the tranquil lakeshore area. The kobolds and werewolves begin the heavy labor, transforming the lakeshore into their new, fortified stronghold. Suddenly, a chilling sound echoes through the air, and Wano cries out in alarm as something approaches. Alicia and the hero turn toward the source of the noise, realizing that their peace has been violently interrupted. A massive, jagged projectile tears through the sky, hurtling directly toward the site of their new construction. Alicia immediately reacts, raising her hand to intercept the incoming threat before it can shatter their progress. Her magic meets the projectile in a blinding explosion, sending shards of debris scattering across the desolate floor. The smoke clears, and a taunting message appears, mocking the party for their attempt to build a castle. Confusion ripples through the party as they realize their peaceful construction site is suddenly under attack. A taunting message appears on the screen, threatening to mete out justice against the hero's vampire companion. Yurikawa coolly intercepts the threat, reminding the unknown challenger exactly who they are dealing with. The party reacts with immediate disbelief, wondering if the threat is truly serious or just another provocation. Yurikawa remains unshaken, doubling down on his claim as he stares down the source of the interruption. Kuga identifies the source of the hostility, confirming it is the notorious and dangerous Evil Slayer Party. Alicia stares back in bewilderment, struggling to grasp why the Evil Slayer Party would target them now. Kuga explains that the S-Rank Party declared open war on them immediately following the incident with the Arachne. The realization hits Alicia like a physical blow, leaving her stunned by the sudden turn of events. Yurikawa demands to know exactly who the attackers intend to punish, refusing to back down from the confrontation. The panicked onlookers scream, desperately fleeing from the self-proclaimed hero and his aggressive, taunting rhetoric. Yurikawa sneers at the vampire and the hero, dismissing them as nothing more than useless obstacles. He declares that their destruction is only just beginning, promising further ruin. Alicia questions if they truly picked a fight, while the enemy warns that defending monsters demands a heavy price. Kuga reveals the brutal truth: they have already eliminated the Monster Slayer Junior team. Alicia stares back, stunned by the cold realization of the danger they now face. Yurikawa vows to crush that smug attitude, demanding they wait in fear for what comes next. The party struggles to comprehend that the Evil Slayer group is targeting them with lethal intent. Alicia snaps back, telling them to stop hiding behind comments and face her directly. Her blunt challenge breaks the tension, drawing amused reactions from the audience as the mystery of the attackers deepens. Yurikawa coolly deflects the aggressive commentary, questioning who exactly has the nerve to challenge his authority. He stares into the camera with a calm intensity, confirming that the person behind the screen is none other than himself. The realization hits that Yurikawa was broadcasting under an alternate account, leading to a sudden, frantic moment of panicked regret. A week passes in eerie silence, but the party remains on edge as they watch for any sign of movement from their enemies. Sarah receives a sudden, urgent command to pull up the Evil Slayer stream, hinting that the real threat is finally about to begin. The broadcast begins with a chilling announcement of a campfire stream. The group stares at the screen, watching the fire burn in the background. Yurikawa mocks the hero and the vampire, reveling in their apparent helplessness. Yurikawa leans into the camera, taunting them with a direct challenge. The realization dawns on Kuga that the kobold's manor has been targeted. Kuga grimly notes that the attackers struck while everyone was away. Alicia instructs Kuga to head to Wano immediately. Kuga accepts the mission and follows the others toward their destination. Alicia offers a heartfelt apology to Wano for the current situation. Wano responds with a heavy heart, leaving their future uncertain. Wano flinches at the sudden, overwhelming pressure, his confidence crumbling in an instant. A look of profound despair crosses Wano's face as he realizes the gravity of their situation. Alicia and Kuga watch with growing concern, their expressions hardening as the threat becomes undeniable. Alicia whispers a hollow apology, admitting their total failure, before ordering the group to retreat immediately. Yurikawa praises the creature's destructive performance, clearly reveling in the chaos he has orchestrated. The legendary salamander, once a formidable S-rank boss, now appears as a mere tool for Yurikawa's twisted game. The beast's massive form is battered and scarred, a testament to the brutal toll taken by these relentless attacks. Yurikawa mocks the hero and his companions, comparing their struggle to a trivial side dish in his grand design. He paces through the desolate landscape, declaring that their true nightmare begins in exactly 3 days. A wicked grin spreads across Yurikawa's face as he promises a final, devastating act to finish them off. The broadcast taunts the group with a chilling promise to destroy their loved ones and ruin their castle. The weight of the threat hits Kuga and Alicia, leaving them visibly shaken and struggling to process the news. Looking at the smoking ruins, the group acknowledges that their base has been completely reduced to ash. Yurikawa's mocking laughter rings out, piercing the heavy silence as he revels in their utter despair. Alicia takes full responsibility for the disaster, tearfully admitting that this failure rests entirely on her shoulders. Wano struggles to find his footing, his voice trembling as he questions the reality of their situation. Alicia confesses her blindness, admitting she gravely underestimated the enemy's resolve and their willingness to strike. Kuga observes that while their enemies are undeniably cruel, they possess a sharp, calculated intelligence. Kuga reflects on the enemy's cowardice, acknowledging that their tactical approach has left the group completely vulnerable. The attackers moved with surgical precision, avoiding unnecessary conflict to systematically dismantle Alicia's forces and shatter their morale. As they stand amidst the wreckage, the true scale of the enemy's plan begins to unfold. Alicia orders her forces to brace for impact, demanding they establish an impenetrable line of defense. Kuga and his canine companion acknowledge the dire situation, standing ready to face the coming storm. An hour after the initial declaration of war, the clock hits 3 in the afternoon. A sudden live broadcast interrupts the silence, and Yurikawa appears on screen with a taunting greeting. Yurikawa grins with malicious glee, introducing himself as the face of the Evil Slayers. Yurikawa mockingly retracts his timeline, carelessly admitting he lied about the 3-day window. The viewers react with outrage at his blatant deception, but Yurikawa only finds their desperation amusing. Yurikawa reveals he is broadcasting from the upper layer, near the vampire construction site. He pauses, a sharp glint in his eyes, as he prepares to drop a devastating revelation. Yurikawa confirms their reach extends deep underground, signaling that no corner of their territory is safe. Yurikawa grins as he directs his attention toward his accomplice, Hibio, who is currently stationed deep below. The viewers are left in a state of shock, struggling to comprehend how the pair could be in separate locations. Yurikawa confirms the confusion, boastfully revealing that Hibio is operating far beneath them. The realization hits the audience hard. Hibio has infiltrated the 45th floor underground. Yurikawa taunts the viewers, asking if anyone has managed to piece together his true intentions yet. Hibio stands ready, positioned directly in front of the formidable werewolf manor. The camera reveals the full scope of their target, the werewolf manor, now under immediate threat. The viewers flood the chat with commentary, mocking Yurikawa's scummy tactics and his sudden shift in target. Yurikawa signals to his massive salamander, ordering it to torch the building before he deals with Grey. With a cold, final vow, Yurikawa declares he will break Grey and force her to howl in agony. The werewolf confronts his comrade, demanding to know who exactly is being targeted by such a threat. The confusion deepens as they realize the werewolf should be busy constructing Alicia's fortress, not standing here. He explains that Alicia personally commanded all of them to return to the castle immediately, leaving him bewildered. The masked figure stands in silence, the weight of the situation beginning to sink in. A sudden notification appears: the vampire has begun her own broadcast. The tension in the room spikes instantly. The screen flickers to life, revealing Alicia. The quiet before the storm is finally broken. Alicia steps forward on screen, introducing herself with a chilling, calm composure to the gathered viewers. She acknowledges the situation, noting that the Slayers have already initiated their assault on her territory. Alicia vows to meet their malice head-on, dismissing their tactics as predictable and entirely unsurprising. Yurikawa laughs, mocking the irony of a monster lecturing them on morality, but his smile hides a final, lethal move.